right. I'm just going live right now. Taniela, this is Trudy. Trudy, this is Taniela from New Zealand, holding it down from New Zealand. All right, we are live. And let me just put my sound effects on real quick. And let's start recording. All right. We are live, y'all. You guys ready? All right, let's do it. What's up, everybody? Welcome. We are live, y'all. Welcome to our session of the Gun Cloud Podcast. You guys already know I am Will. I am hosting this show. You guys already know who I am. For all those tuning in for the show for the very first time, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Much love to you guys. And if you love the content, please press that like and subscribe button real quick. To all my supporters out there, to all my subscribers out there, thank you so much for all your love and support. Help me hit 2,000 subscribers. I'm almost there. So if you love the content, appreciate what I do, press that like and subscribe button real quick. And much love to you guys. Don't forget, we do have a disclaimer because we have a very sensitive topic we're going to discuss tonight. So for all the people out there, I have a disclaimer out there real quick.
This content is not suitable for the children under the age of 18 without adult supervision. Please be advised.
All right. You already know what Savage holding it down with the disclaimer. Thank you so much. Everybody out there under the age of 18. Don't forget, this content is for mature audiences. So please be supervised. Don't forget, we have the live chat. So thank you so much for everybody out there always watching the show every single week, always dropping the truths, and then always sharing opinions and thoughts on the topics that we discuss and the different perspectives from all the panel of guests. Thank you so much. So don't forget, get that live chat going. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget, this is a public show. So if you guys, that's one of the things. We're going to talk about a variety of different topics every single week. And of course, we always have a different panel of guests to share their perspectives. But I'm always open to open dialogue, whether you agree or disagree. I know there's a lot of people out there that disagree.
How dare you?
Or make it triggered sometimes, a lot of things we talk about. But yeah, if you disagree, I humbly ask you to jump on and have a conversation and let me know why you disagree and we can have a discussion. That's the most important thing, is having that discussion. All right, but nevertheless, you guys already know, I'm going to post the Zoom link, the public Zoom link on the live chat. Just click on it. You can jump on, just be respectful, respect the guest, me and the platform. You can be part of the conversation as well. Don't forget, we do have the super chat donations. All you guys out there want to support me and support my platform. So much love to you guys. Always, because everybody out there, especially Fatty, if you can see this, much love to you, man. Always showing love and super chat, donating every single episode, every single week. But if you got something to say, if you want to support my channel, drop it through a super chat donation and ask it through a question, ask it through a topic, and we can reciprocate and respond to your question and discuss your topic live on the show to reciprocate your love and support for dropping a super chat donation. But nevertheless, that's pretty much it. Much love to you guys, everybody out there always tuning in. We have a great sensitive topic that we're going to discuss tonight. Much needed conversation to have within our community. And we have a brand new guest. We got a brand new guest. We got a rookie. I was joking. We got a brand new guest joining us tonight. So I'm gonna ask all the panel of guests to introduce themselves real quick before we start the show. I'm gonna ask my new guest. Well, it's not a new guest yet. I actually did a podcast with her a long time ago when I first started. So shout out to her for being on the podcast before when I first started my podcast. I always appreciate her having her tonight. But I'm gonna ask Trudy real quick. Go ahead, introduce yourself out there for everybody that's watching this right now. Go ahead, Trudy.
All right, good evening. My name is Trudy. Yes, tuning in from Midvale, Utah. I'm originally from Compton, California. So it's just a pleasure to be on this call with all of y'all. So I'm excited to just be open with all of y'all tonight. Thank you, Will, for having me.
All right, no worries. Yeah, and thank you for your support all the way in the beginning. So we go way back. So thank you so much for always supporting me and my channel. Appreciate you being on here tonight, Trudy. Thank you so much. All right, we'll pass it on. Malia, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick. Malia, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Malia. I am currently residing in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I just appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion with everyone on the panel. And thank you, Will, for the opportunity, especially just being able to have these discussions within our community. I think it's really good for people in our community. So yeah, Ofatu.
All right, no worries. Always appreciate you having you on, Malia.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Malia. Savage, go ahead, man. Do your thing.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet because, man, there's no place I can go where my mouth doesn't get me in trouble. So, yeah, this is a very important topic. My thoughts and my spirit with all of Tonga. My uncle's doing good, so I'm happy to hear that. They got clean water now. So as far as in Neafu, I don't know anywhere else in Vava'u. Shout out to Taniela, Holonga, Halafudi, everybody. If anyone from there is watching, please, all my family out there in Vava'u. Tonga Tapu's looking good as far as the family I know. I haven't heard anybody from the Ewa right now, but to everybody and anybody who has family back home, I pray safety, love, and light over all of them. And yeah, let's get this topic underway because this is important, very important. So thank you, everybody. Will, it's always a pleasure, brother. I love you, man.
All right, no worries. Yeah, and what Savage said, yeah. Everybody out there back in the home islands, as you guys know, the tsunami that hit Tonga. So yeah, much love to your family and everybody that's watching this right now. But last but not least, our guest, Taniela, all the way from New Zealand. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick. And Lorianne Puefua, I see you on the waiting room, so I'll add you on real quick right after the introduction. So go ahead, Taniela. Go ahead.
Yeah, malolele, everyone. If you've been tuning into the podcast in the last couple of months, you probably know my ugly mug by now. But for those of you who don't, I'm Taniela. I'm from New Zealand. Currently residing here as a construction manager, and to sort of put it simply, I am a strategist around people and process, and a big part of a core of that process is men's mental health. So majority of the strategy that I try and devise and work alongside is mental health, and this topic right here delves deep into men and men's mental health and how some of us come to the conclusion that beating our significant other may be all right in our own brain and in our own thoughts. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, Will, and to everyone else being part of the panel. I'm excited for this Talanoa because it's not one that should be talked about. It's one that should be consistently be talked about. I think people talk about it, but they don't stay consistent. They don't push consistency within the Talanoa. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
All right, no worries, man. All right, always appreciate the support all the way from New Zealand. Thank you for always jumping on, Taniela. Malo pito. But yeah, let's get this show started. Everybody that's watching this right now, if you love the content, press that like, subscribe button real quick. And we got to get those likes up, y'all. Let's get the algorithm going. We're going to spread this podcast, everybody out there, to be on the channel. So do it, if you can support me and help me do that, press that like button real quick. And of course, get the live chat going, drop a comments, anything to help the algorithm to grow this channel and also grow the content to get to those that need, especially the topic that we're going to discuss about it tonight. So so the topic that we're going to discuss is why do women attract, choose, and stay in toxic, abusive, and violent relationships. As you guys know, if you guys don't follow me on my social media platforms, I do. I saw this video going viral on TikTok where there was this girl. I don't know. I know she's Polynesian, but I don't know if she's Tongan or I don't know what kind of specific Pacific Islander she is. But she posted this video of her boyfriend domestically, violently abusing her. And he was hitting her on the face. It was going viral on TikTok. People was trying to repost it to bring awareness to it. This is something that I have people personally that within my own family and friends that I know that have gone through this. So I believe this is a very important topic to be discussed. And like I mentioned in my video, I know people want to bring awareness to it. And that's why a lot of people post and repost and share that video. But for me, I want to go deeper beyond the surface and talk about like for me the root of the issue when it comes to this topic. Number one for me was, how do men grow up become those types of men to think it's okay to hit a woman, especially a woman that he's in a relationship with. But I think that's something that needs to be discussed. Like how do these men become those types of men? Because I think it's very important to. And me and Taniela, I'm always a big advocate of growing of men becoming strong, responsible, disciplined leaders and men in their life and their family. So I think that's a very important discussion to talk about. That's something that's very important to me. And number two, for me, what I do want to talk about is like, why do women attract, choose, and stay in those toxic relationships, those violent, abusive relationships? Because based on what I saw in that video, you can tell by the way she's accepting the abuse, that's clearly not the first time that he's done this to her. So obviously, she stayed in the relationship. So for me, I want to talk about why do women, right? Why do women choose to stay in those relationships, even though their partner is causing them pain, emotionally, physically, mentally? So I think this is something that a lot of women go through. So I think this needs to be discussed within our community. But also, there's a lot of men out there that's struggling. So I want to also reach out to those men as well, and hopefully, by this conversation, we can help a lot of men go back and redirect themselves on the right path. But if a lot of men don't get that guidance or don't get the healing and the help they need, that's the outcome, the extreme outcome, the consequence of men not being raised to be good, responsible, and quality men. So so that's what I want to talk about tonight. But I'm very interested to hear your perspective and thoughts. Did everybody watch? I know Savage watched the video. I know Malia watched the video. Trudy, did you see the video of the girl getting abused?
Yeah, I saw the clip.
Okay, all right. So you see, I know Taniela watched it. And then Lorianne, I see you on there. So if you want to be part of this conversation, if you don't mind, turn your camera on so you can be part of the discussion, please. I will give you a chance to speak. But nevertheless, I'll start with you, Trudy. Why did let me hear your thoughts about tonight's topic. Why do women attract, choose, and stay in toxic relationships? What are your thoughts about the video, and what are your thoughts about the topic? Go ahead, Trudy. All you.
All right. Honestly, I feel like a lot of it is it's her. Like, I mean, well, not only her, obviously, but the reason why I believe they choose to stay in a way is they don't have that higher self-esteem, I would say. I don't know, like about herself. Because if you really respected yourself and loved yourself enough, you wouldn't allow that to, be in your life. At least that's how I feel. Yeah. And then as far as the man being, like the way he is, like why they're the way they are, we don't, there's many reasons, right? I just feel like maybe one of them for sure is, maybe they didn't have a father figure, right, in their life, but not all men, obviously, that don't have a father figure are like that. But I know a few that, maybe that's the reason why, like you said, they didn't have that example, that they were able to look up to in order to treat a woman, a certain way. And yeah, it's just, there's just a lot of different things that can cause that to happen. And then like another reason I would say, at least for me, I know personally, in my life, like I know women, like some of them, they stay because they have children already with the person and they just feel like this is it. And that, they have to like work it through, because the children already, know their dad, know that, so they rather do that, like stay with that person than start all over with somebody who may not want to be with them because of all the kids that they have and so forth, They probably, like, I just think that can be a factor as well, as far as reasons, why some women choose to stay with the abuser, like the abusive spouse or boyfriend or so forth. But yeah.
Okay, all right, no worries. Yeah, thank you, Trudy, for sharing. And yeah, you did make a good point. I know there's a lot of women out there that would choose to stay in those relationships just because of the children or in the marriage. But I'm not really sure with the couple that I posted on that video. I'm not sure of their relationship status, whether they have kids or not. I don't know them. I don't know them personally. But I do know there's a lot of women out there who choose to stay just for the sake of keeping the family together and not being seen to be to be a failure in your marriage or your relationship. Okay.
Scared, to start over again, and they rather just not do all that. Like they feel like it's too much work, like to just do that instead of just staying with what they already have and what they know. But yeah, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, no worries. All right, thanks for sharing, Trudy. Thank you. Malia, go ahead. Let me know what your thoughts are. What were your thoughts on the video, Malia, and then what are your thoughts on the topic we're discussing tonight?
As far as the video, it was just heartbreaking. Just seeing that video and seeing her in that position. And I think, any person who puts their significant other in that position, I think it's just a power trip. I call it the small man syndrome because, you standing above somebody and speaking down to them like that, it just, it proves you're an asshole pretty much. But I don't know. I think a lot of times with women, the reason why they stay in that position, I think they probably think it's just easier or it's going to get better. Another thing too is, a lot of people, they're scared to be alone. So they rather stick with, what they have or what their current situation is than be alone and start over, which I think a lot of times too, in our culture, we kind of let a lot of behaviors slide, certain behaviors. And a lot of times, in my personal experience, I've seen women like try to go back home and, cry to their parents, but their parents are like, this is the person you chose. This is who you wanted to be with. Go and work it out, So I think it's the lack of support. And like Trudy was saying, it's just a lack of self-worth. I think a lot of times too, especially with mental health, if someone is constantly beating you down and constantly telling you you're not worth anything, eventually you're going to believe that. So a lot of times mental health plays into it because then then you start believing like, oh, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth leaving and, having a better life, or just being told, you're not going to find anybody better than me. A lot of times that comes into play. But I think as far as like the men in the situation, because I don't necessarily think I don't think it's always how they're brought up, because sometimes like I've seen men who come from a great family, who have good parents, who still turn out to, be a narcissist and still beat on their wives. I honestly think it's just a personal thing. Or I think it's like a learned behavior, but I don't know. I think it happens too much in our community. And I think because people don't, another thing too is like a lot of people don't intervene. They kind of just sit back and let it happen. And I think a lot of times that can also be an issue. But like Trudy said, it ultimately comes down to that person that's in the relationship. If you don't find the help or you don't find a way to get out, it doesn't really matter if someone else is going to intervene, because you're still going to go back to that person at the end of the day. So it's kind of just a fucked up situation, I guess.
Yeah. No. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah. But also, I mean, that's why I always say, you gotta look beyond the surface, because a lot of times families, look happy on the outside, but you don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
No.
So obviously there's a men who are violently abusing their partners. Something's wrong with them, and I believe it has to come with their experience of growing up or whatever they experience with the childhood trauma or the how they were raised as being men. And of course, the men who do abuse their relationships, like they put a lot of effort in hiding it. So
Yeah.
in public, because obviously they don't want nobody to know. So yeah. But thank you for sharing that, Malia. And yeah. And then I see some people in the waiting room. I'm gonna add you guys real quick. I'm gonna go get through the panel, and then I'll add you guys to jump on. I appreciate all you guys want to jump on. Appreciate it. I'm gonna try to add you guys one by one, and you guys have an opportunity. Just be aware if you guys want to come on. Just be ready to have to turn on your camera and to add to the conversation. All right, just make sure you turn your camera on and be ready when you jump on. All right, Savage. It's all yours. What were your thoughts about the video, and what's your thoughts about the topic?
Well, yeah, straight up, that video, that dude's a fucking dick. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Fucking bitch. Like abuse. Fuck, man. There's so many avenues, and I just want to be very mindful of what I say, because I myself have never experienced abuse in the sense of being helpless, devalued, and beaten down. But I want to be considerate of what I say to the victims or anybody going through it or anybody who's come out of it from the other side. But whether it be, physically abused, right, mentally abused, or even spiritually, because religion can do a very good part of adhering to that. I guess where I'll start from is like the mental part, which is like the devaluing of a person, right? That woman, that how, in the beginning of the relationship, we don't see it on the surface, that this guy has something brewing within him, internalized, and we just don't see it because, hey, he's a great guy, has a great job, and everything's good and fine and dandy. And, the years come, and all of a sudden you just kind of see something else surface out from the deep, right? Something you don't see on the shallow, but something that comes out from the deep that was deliberately hidden. And I believe the mental aspect is the worst kind of abuse to a woman, because what other way to abuse a person by making them believe your opinions, right? Making them believe what you say. If I tell you you're a bitch, if I tell you you're a whore, if I tell you you are less than shit, that's what you will be. Don't call your mom. Don't call your dad. If they call this fucking place and you answer that phone again, just know I will burn you with the fucking iron. And when you take that away from them and then you put that in place as far as parameters, now the fear is in them that they don't want to test that, because it's not a thing of their people. They love you. They don't want to disobey what you're telling them. So the woman believes, or may believe, that she's in love with you so much that she doesn't want to hurt the man, because the man puts up the parameters of, if you do that, that's going to fucking hurt me. He doesn't say it, but obviously if you do that, I'm going to have to hurt you. So don't disobey me. Mentally, this devalues the woman by a sense of saying, like, if you do this, then this is what you deserve. If you do that, that's why I say this. If you do this, this is what will happen further in consequences. So don't do it, or else you'll piss me off, right? You put yourself into a God complex because you make yourself the priority of the end all be all. So nothing should be above you. And that's so much mental abuse that some women, it takes years for them to recover from that. They can't trust anybody. They can't see anybody outside of that light, because they're going to equate every man they come into contact with as that same man that they dealt with. That's fucking mental abuse to the highest degree. Now, physically, man, I can only speak to this because I've witnessed this on my personal account, and I don't want to bring up their names or who they are, but when you're 120 pounds of nothing, 5'4", maybe shorter than that, and you're being beaten by a 6'4", 280-pound man because it makes them feel manly, right? And you're still standing, getting up every day to get your kids ready for school, cook your man some breakfast, and somewhere down the line pleasure the man. I don't know what else is left left to live for, because should you step out of line, now the parameter is like, I'm going to punch you in your fucking face. The beautiful face your mother and father created, the beautiful frame, the beautiful stature, the beautiful physique that you bear right now is now being treated like less than dirt by a man who sees no value in himself. And so he projects it to you. because he may not have control at work. He may not have the ability to control the outcomes of what he looks forward to. So the only thing he can control is when he comes home and lays that all on her. Well, fuck, I didn't get that raise. I didn't get that promotion. So I have to take it out on you. Understand, I do this with love, but I will beat the fuck out of you because I don't know where else to take it out on. And so that's what you are. You are my punching bag, right? It sounds so fucked up to be that real, but that's some of the most realist cases that I can put out there. And that's just from a personal account that I've seen just in my life alone. And then spiritual is fucking, oof, that's a community effort. That's a community effort. Because if you're not careful, should you go to your mom, well, what could your mom say? Honey, you can't leave him. You know what that looks like in our church. You know, they will talk smack.
Yeah, facts.
And you have to work through that, baby. You have to. I know he's not the perfect man. I know he's not a good man, but you have to bear with it. You guys are sealed. You guys are giving each other away. You guys, you don't understand, but you're married into this now. It's not so easy, baby. You have to go through it. The fuck? Is this a cult? The fuck is wrong with you? No, who the fuck said that? Get your ass out of that situation. I don't give a fuck if everybody in the church is saying, hey, you know, I understand your husband is doing a lot of things that he's not supposed to be doing, and he go to Faikava, he come home and he has a different, you know, perfume on him. Hey, fuck that guy. Fuck the bishop. Fuck all them motherfuckers. Straight up. Who the fuck are they to tell you what you can and cannot deal with, right? Whether we be in America or anyone else. Hey, listen, I'll just tell you it's as simple as this. If you want your kids to see what they're looking forward to in the future as far as your daughters, that's the price of what you're paying when you want to allow that shit to bypass, when we want to condone that. I'm not talking to any specific woman, but when we let a community as far as religion or anything tell us different, that, hey, you know, it says in the Bible this, and it says in the book of that, and, you know, the scripture and whatever. Listen, look, if it's worth bearing the physical and mental of just going through that because of your belief, geez, man, Jesus Christ, these kids have nothing to look forward to. They have nothing to look forward to. If that's what our daughters are going to see, right? Because daddy has to enforce his will because it says it's somewhere in some sort of fucking belief, man, you know what? Women just need to be with women straight up, because us men or any of these men doing this right now, you know, there's no light in the future for any woman as far as the generation coming in now. Because if this is a normalized thing, as far as in that video that we've seen, right? Where the fuck is my towel? You could hear the confidence in his voice that nobody's going to find out about this. Where the fuck is my towel? Boom, slaps her, right? That amount of confidence that you have to make a woman feel so scared and fearful, you would have to build something around her that makes her feel like she can't get out. Straight up. That's the only amount of confidence you can have in doing that. And that's coward shit. And if that's what we're going to normalize, if that's how we're going to get away with shit like that, geez, man, I would rather, I honestly, and no offense or disrespect to the LGBTQ community, I would rather my daughter just be with the same sex, man. You know what I'm saying? Because at that point, this is just highlighting women being more emotional in the sense of being sensitive to each other. We men, if we're not careful, our violent nature could dictate how we communicate things, right? I believe that, if anything, violence can be a form of communication if not careful, depending on who's raising or teaching the boy. And if someone is absent in the boy's development, well, of course, this could create a problem later on in the future if that boy should think that violence is the way to deal with everything, right? So with that being said, I mean, this is so fucking hard to talk about because the way I want to say it is just the way it's going to come out. And I'm not trying to be insensitive or inconsiderate to any woman that's dealing with it, going through it, or came out on the other side of it. But to the men who are listening to this, yeah, it's that fucking real. It's that fucking real. If we can't keep ourselves in check, if we can't keep our ego in check, if we just can't get our shit straight, right? That's what the boys that we are raising are looking for. Oh yeah, we get to do this to women. Fuck no. Fuck no.
Yeah.
Mind, body, and spirit, no. No fucking no. So with that being said, man, I hope we can get to a solution to how we can strengthen women to come out and speak on this, because this is hard for me, but yeah, that's where I'm at with that, brother.
All right, no worries, no worries. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Savage. And yeah, thank you for your take on the spiritual part and the religion. Because yeah, I do know I've had conversations with women that have been in abusive relationships or just toxic or just bad relationships with their partners, but they feel trapped. They feel like they couldn't leave because like I think me and Trudy was talking about in the beginning. The shame of getting a divorce, how that's seen within your church, within your community. So so yeah, that's a real thing out there for a lot of women out there. Yeah, but I thank you, Savage, for sharing. And and just one thing, I'm a fat guy. I always like to say, but this is like a pointless stat, but I just had to throw it out there. I know, Savage, you said that your daughter, it's better off her to be in a homosexual relationship. I don't know if people know this, but there's homosexual relationships have a higher rate of domestic violence than heterosexual relationships. I just want to throw that stat out there, for people to know. But anyways, Daniela, what's your thoughts and on the video, and also what are your thoughts about the topic?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's really hard to pinpoint where exactly do you start. But as we all have had previous podcasts on the topic of what makes a man, and we always talk about the protect and provide, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my eyes, just this, I don't even know how to describe the thing. I'm not even going to refer to this person as a human being. He is Tongan, by the way. She is Tongan.
Oh, so they're both Tongan.
Yeah.
Okay.
The simple truth of the matter is, if you are a man and you are abusing your wife, your girlfriend, your partner, your missus, whatever, if you are a man and you physically touch her aggressively and violently, you're not being a man.
Mm.
That's just simple as that. The two most simplest principle that a man should abide by when he's in a relationship is to protect and to provide. And if you're not physically, mentally, emotionally protecting your wife or your girlfriend, you might as well be with another man. That's the simple truth of the matter. You can't justify it. There is no excuse. You as a man is physically and biologically built different from a female. And if you use this advantage over a woman to ensure your dominance or your whatever it is that's come over his whatever logic he's used to excuse his behavior, to me it doesn't make sense. There's no logic behind it. There's no excuse. And this hits a little bit close to home too. My wife, her previous relationship where we have our oldest son, she experienced domestic violence through that, to the point where her ex-husband stood in front of our oldest boy and basically screamed at his face that he was an accident, after beating the shit out of it. And not only that, my own relationship with her now, while I was sober, I could control my own emotion. But while I was drinking, and especially at time of stress and at the workplace, I would get really aggressive. I would have never touched her, but I would get really aggressive in the sense I would slam the door, punch the wall, whatever. It's a big part of the reason why I quit drinking altogether. Because I cannot claim to myself that I'm a man and I will provide and protect for my family, and I'm allowing alcohol to twist my personality, my being, the way that I behave into the complete opposite of what I claim to be. So if I'm a man of my word, I have to eliminate the excuse. Whatever is providing the environment for me to be that person, that to me is a simple enough decision to make. But in terms of why do women attract, choose, and stay in toxic relationship? I'm not a woman. I've never been in one, so I can't really say for certain. And as a man who logically think and process the world around me, I can never relate because majority of women that I've come to know and read literature on mostly think emotionally. So some of the comments that we make as men towards women who are stuck in those relationships, mostly rooted in logical way of processing those events. Doesn't make sense, risk the reward, blah, blah. That's how we process things. But for women, it might be very different. To them, it's justifiable if they have kids. For this instant, the girl that was being abused, she said that she didn't want to affect his career. He's a professional soccer player or football player. Him and his family are currently going through immigration stuff to be able to stay in New Zealand as residents, all of that stuff. So as a man, I don't understand. To me, you hit me and you're more, you're dominating me in the physical attribute of things. If you hit me, fuck you, I'm leaving. That's it. I don't care what else is in the equation. You hit me, I'm out. But that's me being a man. And I talked to my wife about this. But the truth of the matter is, and we talk about this on part of the dating podcast that we talk about, it is absolutely crucial for women to date before getting into relationship with men. And you need to eliminate that little honeymoon phase and get to know this person for who they really are. You only get over to know who they are, what they're capable of, outside of that little realm of, oh, I don't want to fart in front of you because I don't want to lose you, or I don't want to say the wrong thing because I don't want to lose you. That little honeymoon phase will cloud your judgment. And if you commit to a relationship in that phase, when you come out of that, it's very hard emotionally to untie yourself from this person you've invested into. So it requires a bit of discipline, but it also requires you to look at the men in your lives that you think are going to be good fathers, who display behavior of good partners, good fathers. That needs to be at least a benchmark if you don't have direct access to anyone close to you. And you also need to analyze the male around you that are displaying these kind of behavior. What are they doing? How are they acting in front of public? How are they hiding these telltale signs? Because I'll tell you, if you watch men who are domestically abuse their partners, there are telltale signs. They're usually narcissistic sort of people. There are behaviors to it. So I really can't comment on why women stay in those relationships. It doesn't make sense to me. But then again, I've got a dick between my legs, so I may never understand it.
Yeah. All right, no worries. Yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts, Taniela. And I see the live chat's going. I see everybody on the live chat. If you guys on the live chat right now, we'll be part of this conversation. Don't forget to click on the Zoom link, jump on, have that conversation. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. And I run it up. I see you going hard in the paint in the chat, as always. So run it up. Always fun. I love you. Always love your thoughts. Always keeping that live chat live. But fellas, I totally agree with you, Taniela. I believe that men who do hit women are weak because biologically we're built different. Men, we are bigger, faster, stronger. And for me, for a man to hit a woman, it's the same thing as just hitting a child. It's you're just taking advantage of that person. No lack of concern, empathy, discipline. I know for a lot of men out there that they who probably hit women, maybe it's a authority or power complex for them, to gain control and to feel like a man because they probably weren't treated like a man or probably getting that love and attention they probably got as a child. So they put that upon others to feel confident about themselves. But since talking about that, I do want to direct the conversation to, how I want to hear your thoughts. But I'll start with the men, but I'm gonna go back to the ladies. I want to talk about like how do men end up like being like that? I think that's a conversation to talk about. And I know Because where do we start? Because there's so much. This is a very sensitive topic. It's something that we can talk about this from different angles, from the men and the women. But I do want to start from the men. Like, how do these men end up becoming like that? So, because I think I think it was Savage. You said it that. Did you see? I'm sorry if I messed it up, but did you say that you saw this happen? Like you saw domestic violence within when you grew up?
Yeah, the physical aspect.
The physical, right?
Yeah, I saw her get beat.
All right, so I'll never, I've never seen it within my immediate family, but I have seen it with other families of my friends, right? So this behavior does happen, and a lot of times because we're all Pacific Islanders, a lot of times, when I saw it with my friends, and for us, we just thought the conversation we had was just like that's what men do, that's what Pacific Island men do. It's a normal thing, because in Pacific Island we get hit, we get disciplined as kids. So seeing uncles and fathers or men, elder men, hit the woman, discipline the woman. A lot of times, the way the conversation I had with my friends, that's a normal thing. We get disciplined by our elders, and the elders discipline the woman. That's a normal thing. And I remember having that conversation when I saw it for the first time. So pretty much like we're justifying and condoning that behavior. So that may contribute to like a lot of these men out there that growing up and ending up adopting these habits. But yeah, that's why I want to start real quick, just talk about like having an open conversation on your thoughts of like, why do these men end up becoming like this? And if you have any thoughts, any experiences you want to share, any things you have some knowledge of, please do, because I think this is very important for all the young men out there, and also the men out there dealing with issues and they still have a chance to redirect themselves to become better quality men. I think this is a conversation that must be heard. So I'll start with you, Savage. In your opinion, like, why do you think, like the root of it for like, in your opinion and in your experience and knowledge, like, why do you think men end up growing up to become like that guy in that video?
Yeah. Ooh, well, first I wanted to state that, yeah, you're right. That is a statistic as far as the same-sex abuse. That is a statistic. As far as when I was speaking on my daughter being with the same sex, if the statistics still stand by the future, hey, shit, man, then by all means, man, people just need to get better because abuse is it's evil. But yeah, man, what makes a man? What drives a man to be this way? I think it's, for me, I have to put myself in their shoes, right? Because I've manipulated women before. I come from a womanizing background. That's all I grew up around. So I know what it means to build a narrative and be something you're not, right? I know that very well. Thank God my wife saw through that, because shit, man, I can only imagine if I was still 33 years old now, still doing that shit. And if anybody's out there, as far as a man, if you're still out there doing that shit, dude, grow the fuck up, man. You're a fucking pussy, dog. And I mean that disrespectfully in all aspects, bitch. Grow the fuck up, man, because like, here's the thing. The amount of misinformation that you are projecting, and there are people behind you following that narrative or following that behavior, is disgusting, right? Because the only way I could think that would be is if something that was internalized inside of you pushed you or turned you to be that way, right? Maybe mommy and daddy weren't there, so there was an empty void of you just feeling that you were just either never good enough or you just could never amount to anything, and it was your fault. So you had nothing to take it out on. And maybe years later, that just came out in the form that it does when you beat down on a woman, right? That just makes you feel better because you had no answers to why your life sucked that early on in your age. Or maybe there's just so much stress at work that it just blows over because you should be in that position and you deserve it. And then you just one day you and your wife are arguing and boom, you hit her out of nowhere. And you hit her, and this gives you some sort of feeling of power that you do this. Or maybe it's just this self-righteous attitude that I go to church and I'm a good man and my wife should obey me by all means in the commandments or whatnot. I really don't know what the formula behind making a man to be that way is, but I would just imagine that it is a lack of outlet, right? Because that is not normal behavior. Psychologically, there has to be something wrong with you as a man to just think that this is normal. Like, I can only reference that video now because it's so traumatizing to hear him whisper in a sense like, I don't want nobody to hear this, but where the fuck is my towel? And when I go back to the confidence and when he says it, it's like, nobody's ever going to hear you. So if I want to beat you down right now, you better tell me where my fucking towel. I can only imagine what we didn't see when the cameras went off, right? Or even what happened the day before, or because, you know, yeah, obviously that wasn't the first time, but even in other cases, to women who are just sitting there dealing with this and they just think it's normal because they have no way out of it. They've invested years into this relationship. I don't know the factors that play into into this. Like, if I had to dissect the situation to understand why a man is able to be that way, I would think it to be that it's just something they're not satisfied with. That's really all I can think of. There's just something. I don't know how you could, first of all, even contemplate beating or just abusing one. I don't know how that's even an option. Like, you can't fucking walk away. You can't go to the bar. You can't call up a friend. You just have to do it. Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I'm sick and tired of. I don't know how that even becomes possible, but whatever it is, however that comes to be, I hope scientifically we find a fucking solution to that. Because, I mean, I don't want to put every man into that category, right? Maybe there's a woman who's out there provoking, which still, that's not right. You still don't lay your hand on a woman just because she's provoking you and shit. And obviously, you know, the whole rule, if you hit me, I hit you back. There are many factors to how this plays out, but if it's a question of abuse and how the man comes into that role, I would just honestly think that he made it to be that way. That's it. I mean, that's going to be triggering, but that's the only way I can really think is that the man, I made it to be this way because I don't want nobody to know I'm beating you, but just know that I'm beating you if I should ever feel like I have to, right? Because I made it to be that way, and that's the only way I can get away with this. And yeah, that's all I can really throw, man, because if I really wanted to do a study on this, I would, but
no, that's all good. Now, real quick before I pass it on to Taniela, Savage, I have a question. Like, you know, when you saw that, because you said you saw it growing up, like, how did you interpret that as a young man? Like, when you saw the domestic violence in your family, like was it like? Because I remember I shared my comments, my experience when I saw with my friends. Like, for us, it was normal. It's like, you know, that's what men do. You know, our fathers hit us. Men hitting the woman. I mean, that wasn't really like a shocking reaction. Oh my God, like the man is beating the woman. When that's what we did in my community. When we were young, we just thought it was like, oh, that's what men do. But that was just my experience on it. But I want to ask you, like, what was your interpretation of it, seeing it happen in your family? Like, what was your initial reaction, thoughts when you saw it? Because I think that's very important because we do see this in our community. So, like, a lot of times when we don't speak, a lot of times when, like, you know, pretty much what we're doing, we're indirectly just like normalizing it or condoning it. That's why it's good we have this conversation to speak out on it and bring awareness to it. But I just want to ask you, like, what was your initial reaction and interpretation when you saw it? If you remember.
Well, at the time, at the time I was 10 years old. So one, I felt helpless. I couldn't protect her. I couldn't. This is someone I love. I don't know how to save you. But then two, that's someone I know. Dude, I love you, bro. Like, you're in my family. You're engraved. You're in the fucking roots of this tree. You know my grandma.
Yeah.
And this not only doesn't feel right to me, but I'm 9 years old and I'm already interpreting this just doesn't feel right. Yeah. But what am I to do? You're gonna beat me the fuck up. So, you know, as I keep quiet about it, I just, you know, at that time at 9 years old, it's just hard to interpret that someone you trust and you know and love is doing that to someone you know and love, but is hiding it on the surface to everybody else. So what does it look like when I'm trying to tell grandma and mom and everybody, hey, you know, they're doing that to her? You know, I could even be made out to be crazy, understanding that now. But at that time, I was too scared to say shit. I was too much of a, you know, a coward just to say something. So at that time, my interpretation was, even people that are close to you can do this and get away with it.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, yeah, thanks for sharing, Savage. Yeah, Daniela, I'll pass it on to you. You know, what's your thoughts? Like, you know, how do men end up becoming like this? What's your thoughts, experience, knowledge?
There's a couple of things. The ones that are most obvious to me is there's no strong male role model that is actively involved in the child's upbringing. I forgot the guy, but I think he was the first feminist president or whatever in the US. He did an interview with Jordan Peterson. And the interview was around children and why playtime is very essential, especially when we socialize young boys and young girls. And the aim of the game is to allow them to push their boundaries, their physical boundaries, to the point where obviously the little girls would cry because their little brothers would take it to the extreme of their physical strength. And because children love playtime so much, even if they get hurt from it, the point of the game is when you start noticing that the young boys are dominating the young girl, you take away the playtime. So you non-verbally punish them. You take away the reward, which is the playtime from them. And this is an important thing that teaches young boys in the sense of how to gauge their physical ability and just how far they can push it with their female counterpart. And that, to me, that made a whole lot of sense because as males, we regulate violence through playing with other males as we grow up. And if this is the only thing that we grow up used to, then how do we gauge the level of physicality that we impose on women? You know, if you're not introduced into the environment at a very young age. And the saddest part of this whole thing is we're now living in a society or in a community where the third and fourth wave feminism are driving equality too much to the point where they no longer can defend women who go through these abuse, because the equality now takes over, and that's now been used by the evil men who enact out these behaviors as excuses. We're just equal, you know, men and women are equal now, so you should bear the brunt force of my fist in a sense. And that may not be verbally expressed, but I bet you that it is what's going through these men's minds. And I see it all over social media too. When there's a video pop up of a man hitting a woman, that's the first thing that they scream. Where's the feminism now? You know, aren't we all equal? So why is there an uproar crucifying men when it shouldn't be in that sense? So to me, this is, as a father, this is the most important role that I have, is to teach my son to protect and to provide by allowing him to enact, socialize with his sister through playtime. And when he gets overboard because he cannot gauge his own physical strength, then you take away the one thing that he enjoys to do the most, and that's to muck around, play fights with his sister, enjoy that until she cries. And yeah, we as men, we need to come together and not only have the conversations, but put other men accountable for these kind of behaviors. Because at the end of the day, we are both losing on both fronts. Women are losing, men are losing, but the ultimate goal is to start families and to carry on the next generations. To me, the most honorable thing I could do and to pass on to the next generation and to have my own kids and to help provide that next generation to hopefully better society in some way or form. But it starts from a very young age. When you have when the father figure is missing and you have a single mother who has a bad relationship with men, these usually start, majority of these experiences are what starts men to delve away from what they can gauge of what they're physically capable of. And oftentimes when you hear these stories about single motherhood with young men as sons, there's always a bit of a narrative where the son has come out despising his mother in some sense. And that creates a bad relationship with women for that young man. And not only that, the fathers. I've seen some complacent fathers, and I can tell you from the video that guy who I think his name is Skinner.
Yeah.
I have met his father. I've met his parents through my wife's dad. So my wife's auntie is that guy's grandmother. So I've met the parents, and it's such an unassuming relationship that they have, and it also forces me to question what is the father doing at home that makes him think that this is okay. Logically, I can't justify anything along to it, but if you put it on a logic board, this woman and this woman's family has essentially given him the opportunity to move away from Tonga, pursue a professional career here, offered their home to him, offered financial support, offered immigration support. In what world does that make sense, even if you could try and logically argue it? So to me, this guy is just an overgrown man-child who has never learned to discipline and to gauge his physical dominance, not only on himself but on others. And to me, I can only imagine what his relationship is like with his mother, or any of his sisters. And I despise the act. I despise it so much that it's part of my teaching to my son. If I ever find that when he grows up as a young man, that he has physically abused whoever the person has decided to be his significant other, I will bury him. He's only 8 years old, and I've told him that multiple times. So it starts at home. It starts off us, the men of today, to not only teach our kids, but also have the courage to reach out and see the signs that will lead other kids into that sort of behavior. And we need to speak up. We need to put other parents into perspective, especially our generation. We're so much about, let's leave our children to decide who they want to be, especially around the whole gender bloody conversation. They should decide for themselves. No, you're a fucking parent for a reason. At least give them some principles. That's the least you could do. At least some good ones. Children don't have the brain capacity to decide anything in the world. You can at least instill some good principles.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And that was my first. When I saw that video, for me, I was just like, I was like, that was my first thought that came to my head. Daniela, I was thinking like, what was this relationship like with his parents? And how was his relationship with his dad? And what experience did he have growing up? Because I honestly believe the men who become like that, I think it starts at home, and it starts from his childhood. And your thoughts on socialization, how men gauge their strength. I think that was perfect. I think that was I totally agree with what you said right there. And as much as, and I know a lot of people will say that I'm very traditional, and I know a lot of feminism. People know I'm against third wave feminism. But I remember growing up for myself, like I was taught that hitting a woman was unacceptable. That hitting a woman, there were consequences to it. I remember when I grew up that if you hit a woman, not only are you gonna be held accountable by your family, but you also be held accountable with the community. Like the brothers and the fathers will come out, and there's consequences to that. So the role of men of being a provider protector, the men back in the day, we held that role to a very high esteem and regard. And now we're living, like you said, today it's very gender neutral. There's a man that's considered a provider protector, natural in his biological role, that's seen as oppressive to women. We don't want men to be strong provider protectors in that role. We want equality. But so and then these things happen, and these men growing up, and then there's not a lot of strong men out to tell them directly, hey, this is unacceptable, and there's gonna be consequences to it, which I totally agree. I think every boy should have that conversation with their father, and to let him know what his role are, what the boundaries are, and there are severely gonna be consequences if he crosses that. But we live in an age today where if we do that, that's called suppression. We should let people, there's no more gender boundaries no more. We shouldn't put limitations or social boundaries or cultural boundaries or biological boundaries of people. People should be just free to grow up. And I think that's very dangerous for men because I think, like I said, we're physically stronger and men need to be taught how to control their emotions. And if you let men be undisciplined with their emotions, then that's one of the consequences is you're going to go out there and be very abusive in their relationships, especially towards women.
I will just add on. So personally, when I grew up in Tonga with my parents, my dad never raised his voice or never hit mum.
Same.
Even to the point of how rowdy she was. But the biggest experience that I had with touching, hitting a girl. I think I was 5 at the time. My cousin was only 2 or 3. And there's a game we call in Tonga Landa. And we're playing Landa, and for some reason she ran across, and I just happened to smack it and hit her. My cousin, who was 6 years older than me, who I used to hang out with every day after mum passed, beat the shit out of me. And it was the same, paraphrasing, you should always be aware of your physical strength when you're around women. And if you don't know that you're around women, you should be a bit more observant. And I got my ass beat. And I think that's one of the earliest example of another male teaching me in the most brutal way just how capable I am as a person. But man, it was brutal. And to put that into context, the youth of today are so blessed in the sense that your brother or your father or any male figure in your life kicking your ass could put them in jail, that they don't dare to now. But if you were growing up in Tonga and you're around people who value the difference in gender, man, your ass is, you won't sit down properly for a good couple of days if you did that.
Mm.
And that's lucky. That's being lucky.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the videos of kids? For some reason, they're prominently white, but the kids that that threaten their parents, that they're gonna call the social authorities. Yeah. You see, you always notice how lack of like they have no discipline with their emotions. Those kids, and those are those kids that you always say in your back of your head, like, man, he just needs one good ass to put them up, to put them in line. I just think that we need more strong men too. Strong men to step up to lead the next generation, because that's why I believe men handle things differently, and the way we hold each other accountable is different from how the relationships between women and men. And we live in a time today that if a man holds accountable other men the way men would do it, we can't do that no more.
Yeah, it's called toxic masculinity.
Yeah,
apparently.
exactly. So it's called toxic masculinity, but that's just how men are. But nevertheless, Fatty, thank you for joining. I'm gonna ask the ladies real quick, and I'm gonna come back to you, and then you can share your thoughts. So, ladies, I just want to ask you guys, what's your thoughts and opinions? Why do you think these men grow up this way? I want to hear your thoughts. I'll start with you, Malia.
As for my opinion, I think it just starts from home. Not having a good male figure to really show you how to control your emotions or just how to be a man in general. And like Taniela, as a kid, I pretty much grew up around it, almost to the point where it almost seemed normal as a kid. Like, it seemed normal because that was just the environment that I was around, but I always knew that it wasn't right. And I think because I grew up around the environment, because there was a lot of domestic violence going on, it helped me, it helped build the person that I am today, and it helped me choose my husband. So I think a lot of times, there's a lot of factors. There's the power trip. There's just a lot of insecurity with men who or at least from my experience, a lot of insecurity with men who beat on their wives. So I don't know. I just it's just a hard topic because like Savage, I've been in a situation where I've like seen like my aunts get like the shit beaten out of them, and just being a kid and not like feeling helpless and not being able to do anything, like that's the worst feeling ever. But it always, you know, at the back of my mind, like I always tell myself, like, you know, when I grow up, I'll never let a man treat me like that ever. And that's just, you know, it's tough going through that. But I think a lot of times, you know, the men that were doing the beating, a lot of times they had issues. You know, they weren't really able to express their emotions. They didn't really talk much. And a lot of times they were the type that, you know, when they really lost their temper, they didn't care who was around. They would, you know, beat them in front of everybody. But then there were times where like it was like the pinching under the table, you know, just because she laughed like at someone's joke, at another man's joke. It was just, you know, the weird shit like that. But I think, and a lot of times, you know, now that I look at it, a lot of these men, they didn't have a good male figure, a male role model in their lives. And a lot of times too, in my experience, you know, this is like a family thing. Like there's multiple men in the same family that do that beat on their wives. So I honestly think it's just learned behaviors and just not wanting to change. Or not wanting to better themselves. And and you know how you were talking about kids, you know, threatening to call the cops. I was that kid. So yeah. So as far as like a personal experience, like my mom was in a very abusive relationship. It wasn't so much physical. I don't think it got to that point when she remarried, but it was like the threats. It was, you know, the threats of, oh, I'm going to kill you, or, you know, just crazy shit like that. And it got to the point where it almost got physical, and I was the one that actually called the cops. And you know what the fuck that thing was? Is I had this grown ass man in his 20s tell me, like, oh, why did you call the cops on him? Like, this motherfucker had a hatchet, it was like ready to kill somebody. And I called the cops and I was told as a kid. So it's like shit like that comes from the community that, like, you know, it makes me not trust people in our community, because I feel like, you know, people in our community, they won't intervene, or they'll just sit on the sideline and let shit happen. So that's why, like, I don't know, now that I'm like older, like when I see stuff that I know that's wrong, I'll speak up for that kid, because who knows if that kid will ever, you know, get the chance to, like, you know, defend themselves from people like that. But I think it's just, you know, it's just men who aren't developed, I guess, you know, aren't developed mentally and aren't taught to express themselves. Because a lot of Tongans that or, you know, at least in the Tongan community, a lot of times, like, being around like Tongan guys, a lot of times they don't know how to speak, they don't know how to talk, they don't know how to express their anger without getting physical. And that's something that, like, that's something that me and my husband always talk about. Like when we do get into arguments, I always tell him, like, you know, we need to fight fair. You know, we try our hardest not to say, like, disrespectful shit, not to be super disrespectful, but try to get our point across without, you know, crossing that line. And I think a lot of times with Tongan men, they don't develop that. They don't develop how to get their points across without getting physical, or just knowing how to control your anger. And I think with our community, with certain behaviors, it's like, you know, it's always like fight, fight, it's always fighting, and it's like it's normal. But I think it's just certain behaviors within our community that we have to change and that we have to teach kids. And like Taniela was saying, this is why I'm so like I'm so against like younger people getting married or getting married quickly, because a lot of times, like when you get married young, you're still developing. You haven't become the person that you're going to be. And so a lot of times, you get into these relationships and that person changes, or, that person ends up being the kind of person that you don't want to be with. And you find yourself getting stuck in a situation where, where it's hard to get out of. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just certain behaviors learned. But then you do have those guys that put up a good front in front of people, but are like very sneaky and very, I don't know. Like for instance, like with my sister that I mentioned on one of our other episodes, like not only was her husband a cheater, but he also beat her as well. From my understanding, I believe after they ran off and got married, like the second week they were together, he slapped her. And and when I found that out, I'm like, that should have been a red flag. Like, just, I don't know. I guess when it comes to us women, we're all different, but I don't know. I think with women, we just need to do better as far as like seeing the red flags. We can't let the honeymoon phase blind you, or blind us. We just need to see it for what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Malia. Yeah, I think for a lot of women, just I think this, me and Taniela, we always talk about it in relationships, difference between men and women. I think, when it comes to like relationships, like men and women are very, I don't know what's the perfect word to say it. You guys, men really very like logical driven, and women are just like more emotional. There's a lot of times when, logically you should leave the relationship as a woman if he hits you, but then you emotionally you feel differently.
Okay, so how you said that? Okay, so when I was younger, I actually had an aunt that was complaining about, I think it was like her niece or something, that left her husband because he hit her. It was his first time hitting her, and she left. And my aunt was like, he only hit her once, and she left. I can't believe she left. And I was just looking at my aunt like, she went through domestic violence herself, like really bad. And I'm just looking at her like, what kind of logic do you have to think that it wasn't good for her to leave? You know what I mean? And I think a lot of it too, it's like with women, it's just like not being independent. Being dependent. I feel like with us, especially in the Polynesian community, because we're taught to like, it's normal for us to be 25 and still be at home with our parents. I think that kind of enables us to not be independent. And I think, I don't know, I don't like to say I'm a feminist because I don't like that term, but I am an advocate for women to be independent, to learn how to take care of themselves before instead of depending on just the man alone. Because I feel like once you become fully dependable on the man, that kind of takes your power away. I feel like it takes your power away, and it takes, because you never know what can happen. But that's just my point of view.
No, I totally agree. I don't think it's a matter of independence or having a backup plan. I think it's a matter of vetting, taking your time to get to really know a person before you decide to go the full commitment. I think today in this instant gratification dating culture, people are going into relationships without vetting men to make sure that they're fully capable in their quality and the you understand their emotions, you know how to be disciplined. People just get into relationships. And it's the dating apps, social media. And so I think that's because I don't want women to like, for me, I don't want women to have a backup plan. Okay, because I think if you go into a relationship with one foot in, one foot out, then that's a whole different story and a whole other topic of conversation. I think you should just go into it. But I think as for women, they should just take your time and vet these men. But honestly, like how many women are really out there vetting their men before they get into bed with them? Then once you have sex with them, then you're emotionally invested as a woman. So then you can just you can overlook a lot of things.
I don't think there's anything wrong with not necessarily having a backup plan, but just being able to take care of yourself is a good quality in a woman. Like for instance, like with me, like I was very independent when I met my husband, but it was just me having to allow him to take care of me, allow him to be the man and to take responsibility. But I think with a lot of women, I think, if they are dependent, they look for a man to do everything, to take control. But I think, I do agree with you that it's just getting to actually know this man before, putting your all in. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Do you think that should be talked about before the relationship?
That what should be talked about? Because
the backup plan usually, at least with my partners, we talk about backup funds. So if you want, we should have 20,000 just for you. If you left the relationship, 20,000, 30,000, just for you to stay afloat a little bit. And that's a lot of money here where I live. Usually for a woman, like Will said, I think most women don't trust their judgment on men. So they don't trust the guy that they picked. So they stash money away and they have a backup guy plan. If this guy doesn't go right, I have a second or a third guy that I usually go to if something goes wrong. So I think it's very important what Will said. I think everything should be talked about on the beginning of the relationship, even the funds in case of me and you go left and you go to a different home and take the money and go away, because you would never trust a guy that has a separate account that he doesn't tell you there is like 50,000 just in case. If you saw that and if you discover that, you will be super mad and you will think, no, this is not on the long run. This guy is planning to leave and yes. Would you be upset about that if you discover that?
Well, like as far as my personal relationship, like we talk about everything. And the thing is my husband knows if something, God forbid, if something ever did happen, like I'm good. I can take care of myself. I did it before I met him and I can do it again. But as far as having like a backup plan, or funds, like we share everything. We share everything as far as funds. We don't have separate bank accounts because we don't plan on separating. And I think any good, like healthy relationship, like it takes a lot of work to, to stay in the game together. But as far as like a backup plan, my thing is, it's just women need to develop themselves before getting into a relationship. That's my stance on it. You can't just, go into a relationship and expect the man to do everything. You have to do your part as well. Or you have to bring something to the table. You can't, sex will only take you so far.
Do you believe that most women knows the guy that's going to have next?
I'm sorry?
Like usually there's a line. Do you believe that most women that are in relationships, when they start seeing the ship goes down, they know on the bottom of their heart who's going to be next? Do you believe that? Backup plan for a guy, for the next guy.
I think some women do. Or I think it depends, because if you're really looking to settle down, you'll be willing, I feel like you'll be willing to work more. towards that one relationship rather than looking for the next guy to see what he has to offer.
All right, no worries. Yeah, thank you. Well, we got a full panel tonight. We got 8 people on here. So yeah, thank you so much. I see Tui. Thank you for jumping on, Tui. Name protagonist. Yeah, thank you for jumping on. And Claudio, thank you for jumping on. I do want to, since we kind of shifted into relationships, right? I think Taniela brought it up. What are there's red flags that women would see. When that kind of have a telltale sign to show to that man is capable. It has a high probability that he's probably going to abuse you, be violent, and be violent towards you. So I kind of want to shift into that. What are things, I don't know if you guys have those experiences, or ladies, if you guys have those experiences, or the fellas can share their experiences as well. I know there's
Can I just tell like 2 quick stories, because I think you guys were talking about Iran, Portugal. You say the guy that is a club called Benfica is like the best club is in Portugal and the club that has more fans. And usually when you are talking about domestic violence, you say, okay, Benfica lost, so the guy went home and eat his lady. So you are talking about the non-negotiable, the drunk guy that gets home and beats up the woman, the guy that lags at work and is having problems at work and gets frustrated at home and eats the woman. Those cases are clear cut. And I think any man in this panel is not going to defend that, because that man has frustrations, and he is, like a lot of guys and women, are abusive towards their kids because they know they will not get consequences. Usually men do this on a woman that loves them because they know that she's going to stay. So I wanted to bring a little bit nuance, because I have like a personal story about this, and something that shifted my point of view, because I was once someone that thought that men shouldn't hit women, but I experienced this like 15 years ago. So I was on my first job, and for you guys to understand, my family, my father and mother are first generation immigrants. My mother was a cleaning lady. She worked like 4 or 5 hours a day. But my father was responsible for the construction company, and he worked like 12 hours, 6 days a week, from Monday to Saturday, and then he would rest at Sunday. One time it was in 2004, so yeah, 16 years ago, 2004, Portugal had the Euro Cup of football, so they had to build like 10 stadiums in Portugal, and my father was one of the responsibles for building like a Benfica stadium, new stadium. So he had to work like 13, 14 hours. And it was like a very complicated time at home, because it was the first time that I usually saw my father like once a week, because he went to work at the dawn, like 6 a.m. and came back midnight. So I never saw them. And we were making a lot of money, but my mother and my father were chirping a lot, because she never saw that. She never saw my father like less than like 2 times a week. So what happened one time is, it was like at the end of the construction, and my father was very, 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 very stressful. And he came home on a Sunday, and usually on a Sunday he just wants to sit, drink a beer, and then watch a game and stay like that. And I never saw my father drunk. I never saw my father smoke. I never saw him put the hands on anybody, just me, because I was a bad kid when I was younger, and I needed the little ass whoopings just to get in line. But long story short, it was very stressful at a Sunday, and I remember waking up like at 10 a.m. and my mother were chirping at him every single day. He went to the kitchen, and she went after him. Blah, 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 blah. He went to the bedroom. Blah, 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 blah. He went to the dinner table, and she would like make up some stuff just to be in the same division of him. So if you went to the room, she would folding laundry. If you went to the kitchen, she'll start washing stuff that already was washed just to have a chance just to chirp at him. And I remember like 5 p.m., I say, hey, you need to stop. I'm not here to protect you. I'm going to work. And I know this is going to be complicated if I leave, because he's biting himself. That's the first time I see like fumes coming out of my head, of my father's head. So be careful. I went to work, 2 hours. They call me, Claudio, you need to come home because the police is here at home. And I don't know what's happened, but your mother is crying on the street. And I came up. When I came up, I was ready to fight my father, literally, because I thought he would go off the handle. And when I came, he was like crying in the living room, and my mother was in the street talking with the police, and she was saying, "Oh, I don't know what happened. I didn't do nothing. He just hit me for some reason. He slapped me." And I talked to him, and he was crying at the couch. It was the only time I saw him cry. And I asked him what happened and what did he do. He said, I only gave her a slap and I'm sorry. But it was so many hours chirping, putting her face in my face, like antagonizing the situation, that even in my house that I paid for, and I never did anything like this, but it's very hurtful to me that your mother is trying to bait me to do something, and now she's going to call the police and ruin our family because this is happening. So at that point, I really couldn't be mad at him. And that's the reality, because he didn't kick her, he didn't punch her, he didn't throw everything at her. He could. He's 6'2" like me. He's a very powerful man. And it cost me a little bit because I was literally mad at my mother, because I knew she had a great role on what happened there. So that was the only time they are married, like 45 years. They have a house in Cape Verde. They have a lot of money now, but it's just a situation of nuance, because most studies show that a lot of domestic violence is both sides eat each other. That's not like the man eats the woman and the woman eats the man. It's both sides eat each other. And you guys were talking about educating our sons to not hit women, and I concur perfectly. But I want to add something, because I went through that, and I had two girlfriends that put their hands on me, but because they are small, I don't care. You just like, they are mad, they are emotional. The emotional people in the group are going to do stuff that you usually have to understand because they are mad with you. So I think if we want to protect our children, and especially our women, we need to tell them not to escalate the situation. I was a security guard for 12 years. I'm 6'2", I'm a huge man. And the most problems I had at work were with women that were half my size and half my weight, because they know I couldn't do anything. You guys are savages, huge, are very tall. There's a consequence when the man says stuff like that and pressures a man and tries to antagonize him. You know you have to stop. At some point, you have to stop. Even if you are a small guy, you have to stop, because a small guy will never go to a taller guy and trying to antagonize him. But women, for some reason, and I'm not talking about, again, the guys that are violent for no fucking reason. I'm talking about the guys that are usually normalized. There's one point where you don't run, especially in your house. You can run, but what are you going to do if you live in with a woman that's constantly antagonizing and trying to get a reaction out of you? So just to finish, I think most men and women, men should be taught not to hit the woman, and women should not, and I mean not should be taught not to antagonize men, because on UK they made a study that was like it was an eye-opening, but I already knew what's up. You know how many people die from domestic violence compared to the response of the domestic violence? Meaning, I fight you, you are a woman, you go tell that to your father and your brother, your father and your brother come to my house, and now the situation is escalated, and I kill one of them because now I don't fight with my hands, now I fight with a knife, with a gun. So on the United States, on the United Kingdom, they got to the conclusion that there are more deaths for the response of the dead and the brother and something like that than on the clear case where a woman hits a guy or a guy hits a woman. So again, I need to, if you love your dad, if you love your father, I think you should respect their integrity, because you are putting them in danger.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Claudio. I do want to, I do want to open up this question. I saw run it up on the live chat. I know he posted what did she do to deserve that slap in that video? And I know run it up. He's just being a troll on the live chat.
He's just trolling.
All right, but I want to ask you, the panel, the guest, right? And I know this may be, I know this is gonna be a polarizing question, but is there ever a time where for a man it's acceptable for him to hit a woman, right? And I know Claudio just shared his experience with how his mother was antagonizing his father. I don't know if you guys see those videos. This is a real, like, women out there punching men, women out there antagonizing men, pointing their fingers at men, and then they're surprised when the man hits back. When oh my, like they slap the man and then the man defends himself and they act like, oh my God, like, why do you do that, right?
Yeah.
But I think this is an important conversation to have, because we talked about it. Men need to understand how to have self-control, and they also need to understand that how to control themselves, especially when they deal with very combative women. And there's a lot of women out there are very antagonistic, they're very combative. For me personally, that's still not an excuse. I think as a man, you have to be more prepared now than ever in modern society because of the third wave feminism. And so women today, they go out there and they act like there's no boundaries and no consequences. But that's my question I want to ask you guys real quick. I just want to hear your quick thoughts for the sake of time. Is there ever a time it's acceptable for a man to hit a woman? I just want to hear your thoughts. I know that's a very controversial question, but I just want to hear your thoughts. Is there any situation?
Well, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So again, salute to the panel. Thanks for having me back up again, Will.
Hey, you got a face?
I don't.
He was here in the last one.
Yeah, I don't do camera online here. I think we talked about that last
I don't
time.
trust motherfuckers without a face, but okay.
I understand.
He's a superhero. He can.
I understand, fam.
Secret identity.
But I think it's important, the point that was highlighted earlier, that generally speaking, when we're talking about the general trend of this, it's mutual. I think the stats are about 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men generally experience this, which means it happens across the board more than people generally understand. I personally didn't experience this in any of my relationships because I intercepted these things before they manifested. But it was because I've seen it happen to other people while I was growing up, and I saw it happen with my brother's own situation. I think I said this before. I belong culturally to the Ado-social complex. I guess people who identify themselves as African-American, whose ancestors took part of the transatlantic slave trade. And I can say that our demographic in particular experiences a very high degree of what was talked about earlier with the women being in the position of authority and using the police as a proxy to govern the relationship. So what happens is, even when we aren't doing certain things, even if we're in a position of self-defense, we're assumed to have done something, even if we haven't. And we get a disproportionate response that was talked about earlier about how individuals will get revenge on supposed instances of violence that results in more death than the actual pain and suffering that occurs in the domestic situations in the first place. So I think what's happening again is the point that we made in the last conversation, which is the current environment due to first industrial changes for women's rights and what it looks like at home now to define family. This has outpaced the speed that most culture in the modern era has been able to respond. There are almost no resources for men to address situations where they are with an abusive spouse. And there is I don't want to say overabundance, but there is a definite psychological issue that takes front and center with this concept of narcissism as it relates to the potential for domestic violence. I've got a link I can put here in the chat that you guys can definitely reference when you get time. It explains how there are differences in the way narcissism tends to manifest between men and women. And it emphasizes the fact that for most men, there's the grandiose expression of narcissism, which gives you the classic traits that pretty much look like autism: lack of empathy, need to have absolute control and domineering, in the relationship. We see this formula, and I think that's a pretty much cut and dry instance of the video you put earlier, Will. But with women, it manifests a bit differently. And what they see is it's a very passive aggressive, inverted victimization kind of undertone, where the grandiosity probably can be replaced by this word victim. And what they found is people who have that masculine expression of narcissism seek out people who have that feminine expression of narcissism and vice versa, which explains a lot about why we see these situations where almost 50% of the individuals who are abused end up going back to those same people or people that are like them. So I know I kind of went roundabout in answering your question, but I just wanted to bring that information there to state that, there's a lot of mutual abuse taking place here in a lot of these instances on both ends, both for the men and both as far as receiving and giving, and for the women on the giving and receiving. But as it pertains to men right now in the modern era, I don't think there's any instance of hitting a woman outside of self-defense. And people need to be able to read the situation before it shows up, because this is the new environment.
Got you, man. Yeah. Go ahead, Savage. I see you. Go ahead.
So yeah, I definitely heard what he said, and I definitely heard what Claudio was saying as far as his story with his mother and father. And I just want to bring it back to the topic, which is child abuse versus not child abuse, domestic abuse versus what we're now speaking on, which is domestic violence. Yes, that can be from both sides. As far as domestic abuse, where it's totally one-sided, I believe the statistic I remember seeing a while back in 2020 here in America was that 1 in 4 women will die from domestic abuse, whereas 1 in 9 men will die from domestic abuse, being in cases of in their sleep, being shot by the woman, stabbed, or whatever the case might be. 20,000 a year will die from domestic abuse, whereas in half of that, or 1/3 of that, will be men who die in those cases. Now, why am I highlighting this? Domestic abuse. Ultimately, that it's controlled, right? It's hidden away from the surface where people cannot see this. I can understand domestic violence. If you touch me, it's only right by nature. I'm going to touch you back. I always tell my daughter, right? I try to build the understanding for my kids to know that this is a world I want you guys to live in, based on your attitude and how you adjust and react to things, right? However, if the conversation is about domestic abuse, then the thing is to bring awareness, what to look out for, right? Because I could understand if you're of the African diaspora and you'll go back as far as the transatlantic slave trade to date where this might root from, right? However, that's only a point that you were referencing. There's no actual point that you are giving as far as historical or chronological order. If we're talking about modern times where we glorify it, where I'm a pimp and I slap these bitches and slap these hoes. I would honestly ask you this, based on a patriarchal society, how far back can you, I don't know, place or give the parameters that women are given to succeed as far as, going to the police and saying, hey, my husband is trying to hit me, even though we may know she's lying, but she's weaponizing this, right? Because that's essentially what you said, nameless protagonist, where women are now utilizing and weaponizing this because of domestic violence. Whereas in domestic abuse, there is no call for help. She is ultimately fighting within herself to understand how she can get out of this situation. Because if the topic was domestic violence, then this is a whole different conversation. Hey, listen, straight up, if it's a whole movement about, equal rights and lefts and whatever the fucking case is, I always tell my daughter, don't start nothing, won't be nothing. Straight up. That's it. If you don't go touching people, they won't go touching you. And I teach her self-defense as far as that goes. I can understand domestic violence, but if it's domestic abuse, we have to understand that, yes, women are being domestically abused just as much as there are men, but prominently it is women who are dealing with this. So,
let me just say this, because you mentioned the title of the conversation here. I was under the impression that the topic was, why do women choose, stay in toxic, abusive, violent relationships? So to my understanding, that encompassed everything we were all saying. All I was making mention of is that both genders do experience this on an equal level. And there is some nuance that applies to that, which is why I wanted to bring up the issue with narcissism. Because at the end of the day, what it looks like is there's some very common denominators when we're getting into what to look for to avoid this dynamic. And that's why the article, I got two up there now. The first one was important because I thought it was an excellent opportunity to highlight certain behaviors that people can vet for to prevent that from happening in the first place, so that people can learn from that. And I thought it was very interesting to show how narcissism is being pinned as an underlying psychological predeterminant, so much so that it's being studied across the board for psychological forensics. So we wanted to put that information there. And I've got a good link right underneath that about the domestic violence stats, so folks can have a little information on that. I'm not saying that to mitigate what you're saying. I'm just wanting to make sure you understand the intention of me bringing that up.
When you're talking about the domestic violence and what was the domestic abuse? Abuse is just verbal, and the violence, what does encompass? Because I'm getting a little bit the two conflated. Before
you guys continue on there, I'm sorry, I just want to allow Trudy to share her thoughts, because I know Trudy, you're
sorry.
on the
Hey,
podcast.
Trudy, what's up?
What's up, Trudy? So thank you, Trudy, for joining on and making the time. I know you had some stuff to do, and thank you for jumping on. I know you're being silent and just listening to the conversation that we just had. But Trudy, I just want to open up for you for being on the show. But what are your thoughts? I'm sure you saw that video. What were the thoughts on the topic at hand? Or you want to share your thoughts on what we just discussed recently?
I didn't see the video.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry.
I mean, give me a rundown really quick. What was it?
Oh no, it was a video of this. There was this pistol honor guy. He was hitting this girl, his girlfriend. He was domestically abusing her. But if you didn't see the video, that's fine. But I just want to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts real quick on the topic tonight.
This is a huge topic. I'm not sure where to start, but like what you just asked, is it okay for a man to ever put his hands on a woman? I don't believe it's okay for anyone to put their hands on anyone unless it's in self-defense. Mm-hmm. But the rules of the streets, if you are willing to put your hands on a man and you are a woman, you need to be prepared to get hit. I'm just going to share a quick story. Me and my brother and my cousin were in Las Vegas, and I was waiting for them outside, and in the parking lot, a guy he hit his girlfriend, not repeatedly. He hit his girlfriend and she fell. And I'm Polynesian. What are you going to do? You're not going to let some dude attack a chick, So I go over there and I hit him from the side because I just assumed that he was like hurting her. And then she jumps up and she starts swinging at him. And I was like, oh, it's you. So then I hit her instead, and she's knocked out. And I'm like, what? I'm so sorry. I'm like apologizing to
She
him.
hit you or the guy? You or the guy?
No, she was trying to attack the guy. And I was like, oh, it's you. And so like I turned around and then I hit her instead, and she, knocked out.
Yeah.
And so I had to apologize to him because I was like, I'm so sorry. And he was like, no, it's cool. My girlfriend's crazy. And I was like, why do you stay with her? This is insane. Does this happen often? And he said, yeah. And I'll never forget his answer. He said, well, I love her and I don't think I can do any better. And I was tripping out. I was like, I've never heard a man say anything like that. So I was 19 when this happened, when I was in Las Vegas. And this guy was not an ugly man and he wasn't a small man either. So when he said that, like, I think that's one of the instances where I started to sympathize with, like, not sympathize, but empathize with men. Because I think up to that point, I hadn't really realized what it's really like to be in a relationship with a female who isn't mentally stable. You know what I mean? So as far as why people, like women, attract and stay in abusive relationships, I know that it's familiarity and some sort of security in a bizarre way, like you have Stockholm syndrome almost in abusive relationships. So I understand, but I don't understand because it's like, you recognize red flags ahead of time. Well, not, I don't want to say for everyone, but I feel like most women recognize those red flags, and because the man is, they can't do any better. I'm digging myself in a hole. I think I'm making women sound like absolutely horrible.
No, you're not. You're not.
Hey.
They're not. They see red flag and they drive right through it. They see red flag and they put the foot on the gas.
Yeah, and like I recognize attractive behaviors in absolutely toxic people. So I understand the appeal, like of a man who might not be so good for you. Like I get it. But at the same time, I think women have a hard time understanding what relationships are supposed to be, either because of upbringing or because of female narcissism. Nobody knocked them.
Don't you think they are emotional junkies?
Oh yeah, totally.
That's bonding. That's bonding to trauma. I'm not going to cut you off. Just a little side piece. Like I said, I was security guard on a club and a mall. I saw this 3 or 4 times. The woman fights the guy eats the girl, some guy or some girl sees, stops the guy that is eating, and the girl eats the guy that is trying to separate and try to save her. And I saw this 3 or 4 times. We are a couple, I eat you, some random guy tries to save you, and we are so bonded to trauma that we fuse together and try to kick the other guy. So that happens a lot of times because they are bonded to trauma, and women usually are emotional junkies. So
I want to ask a question for anybody on this panel. Has anybody on this panel been in a abusive or like toxic relationship? It doesn't have to be domestic violence, but just either toxic or a bad relationship. I'm interested. Malia, you raised your hand.
So I just want to let you guys know, my husband is he's just trolling, okay? He's trolling.
I know, we know.
So sorry about that. But in that case, to kind of feed off of what Fadi was saying, as far as like that situation with my sister, to be honest, like I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but she deserved it because she was that type of person that would just instigate. Yeah, she would instigate, she would antagonize him. I mean, not that she deserved everything that he did to her, but a lot of it too was her fault as well, because she treated him like shit, to be honest. And so a lot of times, he gave it right back to her. And so And like what Tui says, like if you lay your hands on a man, I totally agree. Like, expect to get hit back. Because no one should be putting their hands on anybody in the first place. And as far as like the toxic relationship, like what Patty was saying, back then, especially when I used to drink, yeah, I was like that asshole in the relationship, to be honest. And I was that kind of female that, like, if I was with a man and I knew like I could do what I want and get away with shit, I'm sorry to say, like I was gonna do it. I was gonna push his buttons and like see where I can take it.
The famous shit test.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it's just I don't know if it's like a narcissist thing, but like because I was just the type of person like if I knew he was weak, it's like, oh, I'm gonna take what I can get. But it just, I don't know, it just going through all that shit, it taught me a lot.
That's not narcissism. That's not.
I just want to add my 2 cents. I completely disagree. I disagree, and I disagree strongly, because what's our point that we're trying to make? We're trying to build stronger men. If we're trying to build strong men with morals and values, we can't give them excuses of, oh, if your missus is nagging you and constantly nagging you, then it's all right to hit her. To me, it's if your wife, partner, missus, girlfriend, whatever, is nagging you to the point that you have to hit her, you have failed to communicate effectively, you have failed to set boundaries, and you have failed to set up compromises where you both know that you are emotionally vulnerable, that it would lead to an emotional response. So if we allow women to nag, like my wife, for instance, she knows exactly when I say to her, I've had a really shit day, don't want to talk about it, I'm sorry, I just need to go to bed. She stops right away. And she leaves me alone, she gets me my dinner, gets me a drink, take my shoes off, and she leaves me alone. And I've run through communication when I drive home, because it's easier for me to talk about what I've been going through. I give her a call, it takes me an hour to get home, and I just vent. And she knows I'm not venting to get a solution from her, I'm venting so that I can hear myself being a little bitch and also problem solve at the same time. So if we want to build good, strong men that will be leaders, we need to give them not excuses, but to give them tools. If your woman is nagging you and you're finding yourself really wanting to smash the shit out of her, then you haven't done your job as a leader of that family. You haven't communicated to her that these are your boundaries, and you haven't compromised with her where she's allowed to do some of that and you're allowed to vent on her, vice versa, where you have some compromises where you can both walk away equally standing and no one holding power over the other. So that's where my disagreement comes from. And I hate to put stats into this conversation, because this talanoa is much more important than numbers. We're all affected by it at the end of the day. That's what the numbers is saying. What can we do to make it better? As a man, I need to start with my own gender. And as for a female, I can only suggest, look for people who display no emotional control when they put into a stressful environment, especially when it's around work environment. High stress environment will reveal what people are capable of in their truest nature.
Yep.
And you decide from there. And when we talk about the question, when is it all right for men to hit women? Never, because what is the goal? Is your goal to show your power, your domineering ability to a woman? No, it's to show that you are a leader, you are in control of your emotions, and you can walk away from situations that will put you into a corner where you have to defend yourself to some extent.
Would you call the police on her?
Would I call the police on who?
When verbal boundaries don't work, when you run,
I leave
from her and that don't work, would you call the police on her? Because that's a boundary. I told you, you're still trying to badger me, trying to get a reaction from me.
Then I leave. Because
when I talked with my father, he told me one thing. I rather go to jail than call another man on this house to solve a problem that I couldn't. And the question is very simple. Would you call the police? Like most women, excuse me on the panel, if you can answer, I think they would be more hurt if their man called the police on them than to them to get a slap they antagonize, deserve, let me say. So my question is very simple. Would you call the police on them, knowing the consequences that it could assume?
You're talking to the women, right, Claudio?
To Taniela. The question is to Taniela.
Oh, to Taniela.
If it doesn't
Okay,
hit them,
Taniela.
yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Taniela.
If it gets to that point, then I've utterly failed. Personally,
Yeah, you failed.
I've
Yeah,
utterly failed.
We can agree on that.
And I need to walk away. Because when I commit to the relationship that I currently am at the moment, and I'm long term for this, I put values across the table, and these are my boundaries essentially. These values, if you want them, you have to do the absolute best to not try and break down those values. Then I ask her what value she brings to the relationship, and those are the compromises, the initial compromises that we make. I work in a high stress environment. The last thing I want to do is come home and nag, and you nagging me. What can we do? Okay, maybe I'll talk to you on my drive, not face to face. Break that barrier so I can talk to you. But if you get down the line 10, 20, 30, 40 years and she's still doing that, then there's a bigger breakdown than just ending up. Women don't just start nagging you. And if they do, walk away. You have every right to walk away from that relationship. So how do we identify red flag? This is why I'm a big proponent of dating. Date to know the person, then get into a relationship.
Yeah.
Find the values, find the compromises. Who are they behind closed doors when they are truly themselves? So, so the question is, would I call a police officer? No, I would feel shame and I would walk away.
But you see, that's the thing. You are on a healthy relationship where you and your woman vetted you guys really well.
So the relationship that broke me down was essentially a relationship I got into. It was a 3-year relationship outside of a high school. That was the most toxic relationship I ever been with. I didn't have no value, so therefore I used manipulation to try and control her. Essentially, she walked away from me. And I cursed her for the first 6 months. From the day that I broke up with her to 12 months later, I dragged myself silly. It took me another eight months to recover from that. But I was really toxic. I would manipulate the shit out of her. And I would turn up at parties that she would go herself to just to try and see what males she was talking to, who she was interacting to. I would, even if it was hours drive out of town, I would turn up just to spy on her. And behind closed doors, we would yell at each other the most toxicest shit. So I know what it's like to be in that relationship. And that's why it's given me the gauge that I have now. I'm not perfect in any sense. A majority of the qualities that I had in that relationship, I'm still trying to refine and to better myself. But there are some core fundamentals that I've taken away and improved on. So, I
just want to add to. I just want to agree with Taniela. I think for a lot of guys, they say when a woman agitates you or, antagonizing you, I think there's always a different choice than hitting her. So
and it builds on momentum. It has to start small and it builds. And if you don't notice that as a man, then you haven't established some values yourself.
I mean, for me, it's like, unless it's a life or death situation where you have to defend against their life, I don't think there's any legitimate reason ever you should ever hit a woman. And if you get to that point, then leave the situation. But there's always a choice to leave. But I don't think hitting is the solution, or or you want to go down that path, because once you hit a woman, then you're opening up a whole different set of consequences that you're gonna be attracted to your life, which you don't have to deal with. I think you should just leave the situation. But I think that's something that's never because I think talking about agitation, then for a lot of men who will listen to this, they might think that they may use that as an excuse or justification.
Yeah, of course.
So I think I just wanted to put it out there for men, like, hey, if you can't handle it, leave. But because once you hit, you can't take that back. Law enforcement is gonna be involved. Then that's just a whole set of consequences that you don't need in your life as a man.
And logically, it puts you at a greater disadvantage. Like if we,
especially in the West,
yeah. If we think logically and we drive the narrative of logical creatures, logically it puts you at a much greater disadvantage than the other options that you have. So emotionally, we might love to justify it to a certain extent, but logically, it puts you, even with the legal system where how it's designed to cater to women and majority of the aspects, especially when it comes to relationship, you're at a greater disadvantage, especially when you have kids involved, then you are to choose another option.
Yeah, and I think there's something to say about when you're going through that situation during the relationship building phase and whenever you're in a more mature part of the relationship. I think we can say that ultimately when we boil this down to developing good vetting processes, I think most of us were supposed to get a good model from observing our parents and then observing our community. Maybe that's not as readily available in the modern era. And we see people falling back to a lot of cultural norms depending on where you're from. I think Savage Island gave a good example of that, about how many people will stay in a situation to maintain a good look for the relationship because the relationship is being modeled as a positive example for their family and community as a whole. And so you've got an individual that's now suffering, being in a position that they didn't ask for. I think once again, people need to understand and be willing to walk away. And that goes across the board, because that's how you avoid all sorts of not just physical violence, but non-physical violence, which I think is much more prevalent. But it follows the same algorithm. There's people who drive themselves to hurt themselves because of the non-physical damage that they sustain. And we see this. We probably know people who've experienced that. But we're back again to the vetting process and being willing to walk away. I think I can't emphasize that enough. I'm thinking about my brother's situation. I'm thinking about what I've done in my own past relationships, which formed that way. It's just like martial arts. You get into a position where you're no longer reacting to everything around you. And eventually over time, you begin to respond before the attack even happens, because you can sense the beginnings of it forming before it shows. I think you need to learn how to intercept that abusive behavior from the beginning. And it does start with the boundaries. If anything happens physically, there's so many things that have happened mentally first to lead to that point.
All right. Hey, I just want to, I know for the sake of time, we're going to close it up. But I do want to continue this conversation. For those who will have to leave because for the sake of time, because I think this is a very important conversation, and I do want to continue a little bit for a little bit longer, but I know for the sake of time in different time zones. Is anybody else? Is there anybody going to jump off because of the take of time?
No, because I need to be the antagonizer in these conversations.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Savage.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to address that, because he had mentioned that his father said he wouldn't have let another man figure out his problem. Nameless had brought that up. That's the narcissism right there, because you wouldn't be able to accept any help from outside of your understanding. You're limiting yourself. Now you are a part of the problem. It was as easy as an officer telling me, "Look, brother, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, because then I'm gonna have to process you, take you down, and then I have to give all the accounts from everybody around you that heard it and stuff." I was in a case of domestic disturbance, not towards my wife, towards my sister and her boyfriend. And it was domestic disturbance because no one caught an account. Everybody heard. And it was as simple as an officer telling me, like, I would have had my guns drawn on you. You get what I'm saying? But that's the ignorance of man, is sitting there thinking that you can't receive help from the outside. So you'll limit yourself to the understanding of narcissism. If I can't figure this shit out, nobody will. Well, now it's a destructive situation. I brought it up earlier, and to Nameless, to protagonist, to what he was saying, yes, fair enough. It was a question asked about why do women attract, but as to stating to the domestic, right? A system at home that's ran, right? That's the system at home. And then of course, the system at home being domestic, violence is only happening just right there in that instance. Domestic abuse it's happening often. It's a treatment. It happens more than once. So you can hit and get hit back one time. That can happen. However, abuse it keeps happening, and the parameters are put in place for that system now to thrive domestically. So as far as a solution to this, accumulatively, but overall, right. I believe a solution to this is call it out when seen, because overall, if you already have a niche and if you have a feeling to it, call that shit out, because worst case scenario, they're dead by next week.
Anyone wants to give last thoughts so I can respond?
Anybody is gonna jump off, and then I'll let you share your final thoughts. Anybody? Because I want to continue this conversation, but I think there's a lot to break down on this topic.
We are
All
staying.
right.
I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead. Yeah, I'll go ahead and bow out.
All right, shout out to y'all. But real quick, everybody still watching this right now, much love to you guys. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for watching. Press that like and subscribe button real quick. But we're gonna continue this conversation. There's a lot of things that need to be discussed. But go ahead. Who wants to? Trudy,
I just wanted to answer because on the situation, my father and my mother vetted themselves really well. They are a model couple in terms of someone that didn't have anything, 2 parents at home. They worked themselves to that, and now they are going. I'm very well off right now because I had a parent, a mother and a father, and they use each other to one to educate, one to it's not domesticate, one to punish or to control me in terms of bad behavior. So they did really well. But the thing is, you guys are overestimating 2 things. The first one is that women usually nag, and nag, I'm talking about the women usually do shit tests. Malia, I don't know how you spell or how you say it, but she told that's not a narcissist. A woman usually shit tests his man to see where he goes. If he's going to shut up, if he's going to, oh, I'm going to wear that dress. And she wants to see if he is going to say, no, you are not going. Or if he's going to say, oh, okay, let him go. Women usually shit test their men to see the boundaries that they can set.
Can I ask what a shit test is?
A shit test usually is when a woman is trying to test their man to see if he is the suitable. She is basically trying to see if he's the guy that she thinks he is. So through the relationship, she's going to do a lot of shit tests to try to measure for example, on the dress, like usually there's a power play in the relationship where at some point a woman usually uses a dress that's a little bit provocative, and she will use it. She knows it's too much, but she will use it and she will try to see if the other guy gauges and say, are you going to take that off, or are you going to put it? And a lot of women say that turns them on when the man puts their foot down and says, this is the boundaries of the relationship, so don't do that because I don't want to deal with that. So usually women do those shit tests a lot through the relationship. When you are on a marriage, I'll be doing that. Yeah. I got that a lot because when you are on the relationship, men have the power trip of, okay, I have a financial advantages over her, I can hit her, but there's a second way of power trip. I can put the cops against you, I can put our neighbors against you, I can put the court against you. So women usually test their boundaries, and sometimes you don't have the choice to leave, because if you leave, you are going to lose your kids, probably you are going to lose your house, and you are going to lose something that you were helped building. You build you build this empire or this house for 30, 40 years, and now if your woman goes on a power trip, you are not able to leave because you are going to lose everything and need to start over again. And I agree with you guys when you say a man should turn around and leave. But the thing is, where do you leave when you know the court system is against you? And if you leave, you are going to lose everything. The thing is, we are boyfriend and girlfriend. Okay, I'm going to leave. That's perfectly fine. But if you establish a home, that's why women stay, because they were hit, but they don't want to lose the house that they built, the family that they built. And men don't want to leave exactly for the same thing, because they know if they leave, they are done. So that's what I was going to say, and just asking this question to the woman in this panel, have you ever put your hands on a man? Because I didn't consider that abuse or toxic. I really don't. The girl that did this to me had less 50 kilos than me, was like a little, very short, but she had a temper. And she usually, when she got to the boiling point, she usually gave the left tap, like you say. And that, if a man did that to her, that's abuse and that's violence. So I wanted to ask if you ever, on a relationship, put your hands on a man on a stupid play that you did too much or not. Because I have the impression that if you count those little things, I think women usually had more probability on putting their hands on a man than the man just say on their little, oh, shut up, and give him a back slap. I think that's what I want to know.
So,
If anyone hits me, they will regret it. But no.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
All right. Trudy?
Oh, what are we? What was the
No,
question?
yeah,
Oh.
it's asking if you ever put your hand on a man before in your life.
For fun, like play, but not like
Yeah. Oh, okay. Got
not
you.
like for real.
Oh, got you.
No.
Wait,
And
in my life, I literally just told you guys about when I ran up on that dude who hit his girlfriend.
Yeah. You had
Like,
that.
yeah, not in a relationship.
Yeah. You have Tui has that one punch man strength. Knock that girl out.
One hit knockout.
You know, that's how we roll in Hawaii. I don't know.
And Malia, what about you?
Yes. So I was a bully back then. Not necessarily a bully, but well, kind of. But like I said, I was like toxic as fuck back then, and especially like if I knew I can like push that person's buttons, it was just and then plus I fought a lot, so.
And that's why you're not with him.
That was once upon a time, though. But the thing is, just going through those experiences, it just taught me a lot. But yeah, like in the past when I dated, a lot of times I was more aggressive, I guess, than the guys. But that's how I ended up with my husband. He matched my energies. I met my match, so yeah. But
when you say,
but I'm grateful that I never got hit back, though. That's one thing. But yeah, women don't try it, because it takes a really patient man. It takes a really patient man to put up with that shit, and I really, I give it up to them. But yeah.
Yeah, so I want to. Oh, go ahead, Daniela. You want to say something?
Yeah, my ass needs to take my missus to court. It's been violated too many times.
How come I'm always jealous of your relationship every time we're on the same podcast?
Tui is hopping on every podcast. Define her man, right?
only in New Zealand. I need someone that doesn't live in America. Tonga. I can go to Tonga. They won't like me there. Never mind. They're not gonna like me there. They're only gonna like the way I look. As soon as I open my mouth, no.
Yeah, I have a question I want to ask you at the panel, right? I think I want to focus more on the attraction part of why women choose these types of men, and why because you know the saying, that cliche saying we always hear about in dating, women like bad boys, right? So why? And I just want to ask you guys, like, why do you think these women choose these types of guys? Because sometimes, I know we talked about it a little bit, but I want to dive deeper into it. I just want to understand the psychology of why women choose these types of guys, why they're attracted to these types of guys. So for the young women out there that's watching you right now, to understand there's a pattern of why. And I just want to hear your thoughts. And then of course, some of you guys have kids. What do you guys teach your kids, especially your daughters? Like, these are the type of traits and things and give you guys a sign that this man or this partner may exhibit these violent tendencies. If you guys want to share that. I start with you, Savage. I start with you, Savage. Like, why do you think women attract these types of men, or why do women a lot of times pursue like the bad guys? Because you hear that a lot in like dating culture. They don't want the nice guys; they want the bad guys.
Fuck. I can only think of one instance really, and that's just like because they're susceptible. There's just the woman that could be gullible to all the open game they give. The guy's good looking, right? Has the money, the cars, the clothes, but we don't know. That's just surface, right? We don't know what's in the depths. We don't know what's inside of him that's really what he's looking for, right? Because it might be a position of power thing, a power complex, power trip, whatever the case is. He gets off on it. I don't fucking know. But if the woman is attracted, I would have to theorize that either you're just not experienced enough or you just don't know too many men outside of the one you're currently into. So you easily dive into a situation where you're being, the compliments are nice. He's opening the door. He's very chivalrous. He's showing you everything good that he wants you to, so that in order when you fall into the trap, now he's got you, right? Because we usually don't hear about abuse cases until after the meeting, right? It doesn't happen until everything is now comfortable and you're now relaxed. I've never heard of a case where abuse happened on the first fucking date. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. Yeah, bitch, get the fuck. Like, I've never heard that before. That just doesn't make fucking sense. It's usually, man, if I had to, it's like my wife likes fuck. See, now because she watches these fucking crime documentaries and like, you got to break it down like a forensic, like Nameless brought it up. And I really believe it's a part of narcissism because we can, we will, right? It's just, I don't know what it is like. It's a conquering complex. Because I can manipulate him or manipulate her, I'm going to see how far I can milk this, how far I can go, right? Hey, don't touch that. Sit your ass down, right? Because abuse, if anything, more than can be far more than just physical. We can do this verbally, we can do this mentally. And I just think it has a lot to do with the woman's gullibility and the lack of experience because you don't know the other men out there. You'll just fall for the one that's giving it all you want. And that's all I can really think of, man. I mean, I don't want to know. I don't want to say I know guys like that because I personally don't. But I have heard that there are men who just get off on that shit that just want to belittle women. Because there are cases that women do that, but it's very, very little that I hear from in my parts. But maybe this dude fucking gets off on it, so he knows all the right things to say to her, and she'll fall for it. So why these women attract those kind of men is because they know no better. They don't know the experience of the game out there and shit. So.
It's Savage. Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know you said that you were a womanizer, right? So like, so how did you get these women, and why did they? What was about you that like attracted them to you?
I grew up around pimp culture, man. I think Bishop Magic Don Juan once said like, you don't have to play the game if you know the rules, right? So. If you play the game, if you play under the rules, you're always gonna fall for the same old shit, right? But if you can control the game, essentially, is what I took from that. And if I know how to get the women that I need something from, that's the easy way out. My boys are hungry. Hey, can you get us some Jack in the Box, and then we'll go hang out later or something. That was me. I was fucking dude. I was the take one for the team guy. That was this dude right here, right? If we all went, I was like, bro, you need a wingman? Cool, I got you. Or like, I would play the safe game for the long term. Right. So the whole thing was, if I wanted the baddest one, I'll go get the baddest one. If I wanted the easy one, I'll go get the easy one. But the thing was to never devalue myself. Even if I might look shitty, if I don't got the nicest car, was the confidence to put that in there and put it into effect. So if I saw the baddest one in the building, go up to her, hey, nice to meet you, then treat her like shit and walk away. Not only does that cause interest, like, why the fuck did he do that to me? Doesn't he know all these fucking men want me? Not me, apparently. So, whatever, get the fuck out. Next, you get a call weeks later, like, hey, do you remember me? And like, no, I don't remember you. But you remember who she is because you know how to play the game. I mean, look, Malia's name is Boss Lady. If that wasn't clear indication to you that she might have been a bully in her previous, awnings, the game is still in there. Don't let it fool. Look, I'm telling you, Malia, if you have daughters, I know you're going to have to spill some game eventually to them. Or some nieces, or so, you're gonna have to tell your cousins. But that's really what it is, man, because
Savage, sorry to interrupt you. Did you understand right now that you answered the question with your story? You answered the question that Will asked. They love the guy that doesn't give a shit. They love it. Do you guys saw
No, Savage is the reason I didn't date Polly's until I was. I was a nice girl, and I wasn't bad looking, man.
That's personal.
Dude,
That's personal.
the church girls were the best ones. The church girls were the best ones.
I mean, the LDS church girls.
Do you?
Hey, Savage forgot to mention. Savage, you're from which clan that's known for which body part?
Do you?
There's a specific clan you're from.
Our brain.
There's a last name clan he's from. He's inherited the gene, so that could be a factor.
Can I ask you a thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys saw Sex Life on Netflix last year? It was the most saw series on Netflix. Anyone here saw? It was the most watched, and it was like literally a story of a woman that had everything: the guy, the car, the kids, the house, the job, and then she met her love hubby from high school, the bad guy, the bad boy, and she literally left everything to go back at him. And it was the most watched series, and 83% of the people that watched the series were women. Women love this stuff, like the 50 Shades of Grey, 365 Domini or something like that. Women love the emotional roller coaster.
Yeah,
they really love it.
He's fucking right. He's
they
fucking right.
They really love it.
My wife only has 3 hall passes. Michael B. Jordan, Idris Elba, and Jason Momoa. That's the only. If she ever runs into them motherfuckers, that's the only emotional attachment you ever get. Luckily, hopefully, I don't ever go to events where the motherfuckers be at. So,
hey, Savage, tell your wife that Jason Momoa just moved back to Makaha. He's literally 3 blocks away from me.
Yeah, he's single. He's single, right?
Yeah, he's single. Where is Macau? Macau is Macau, like next to China. Macau.
That's in Hawaii. Hawaii.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Macau.
Hey, ladies, I want to ask you this question because I think Claudia brought it up and Savage brought it up. Like there's sometimes when women women like emotional roller coaster when guys don't call them back, don't talk shit to them, mistreat them. But that's but I want to ask you ladies real quick, and I just want to ask you your honest opinion. Are there certain traits in men, if they exhibit it, you would overlook some bad behaviors? And I just want you guys to be honest right now.
You would compromise to the extreme.
You will compromise your standards with these types of men if you actually if you guys met Jason Momoa and I'm if he was an asshole, I'm sure a lot of you guys you kind of overlook that Jason fucking Momoa. But I want to be, because that's important, because a lot of women don't recognize, understand. Like Savage brought it up, like a lot of women don't understand the game. And unfortunately, there's a lot of men out there, especially the men who are very narcissistic, they understand the game. They know how to weaponize this and utilize this, attract women. So.
No comment.
No. But that's the rest of reality, because we're talking, the topic in hand is like, why do women attract and choose to stay with these men? So I think, but I want to ask you ladies, like, are there certain traits and that in men growing up in your life that if you start to like justify or tolerate bad behaviors or habits? And I just want to ask, I'll start with you too, because I can see your face right now.
Yeah. All right. So.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Trudy. Go ahead, Trudy. No, go ahead.
Me or you say somebody else?
No, go ahead, Trudy. Go ahead.
My bad. I thought you said my name.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm just gonna answer that really quickly, that question. But I also wanted to add on to the why women are attracted, whatever, to abusive men, or I think that was the other question.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the habit, like a bad habit that I got, like I guess that I just already I got over it already. So my husband smokes, right? And in the beginning he was smoking cigarettes and they stink. I hate it. Like I really hate the smell. But I kind of got you, I guess, like, yeah, I overlooked that part, and then just kept going on with the relationship. So yeah, I mean, now he vapes, so it's not as stinky right anymore. So that's a good thing. But anyways, yeah, that's one of the bad habits that I want to mention.
Shout
For
out to
me.
Taniela.
What happened?
Shout out to Taniela.
Yeah,
for
Taniela.
that.
Hey, honestly, ASMR. I love when Taniela smokes his fucking vape on the podcast. This shit is dope. I love that shit.
Yeah. So that's just me personally speaking for me, but as far as like women attracted to abuse, like, okay, or like men that are whatever, I think like, or bad guys, right? The whole term that you said, like, like how women are attracted to bad boys or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like that. I mean, like I wanted, it's one of those where it's like, you want what you can't have. Like, you were taught to not go to that route, like to that kind of, but yet I was the rebel. I'm the rebel. Like I want to go against, like that's just how I grew up. Like I want to go against what I was taught because it was exciting. It just made me feel like, like a little high, right? Like you got that little high or whatever, like they call it. So yes, I can, definitely say that. Like you want what you can't have. It's, basically that's what I wanted to add to that part. Like psychologically, I think that's a thing. It is a thing. Like,
did you listen to the term that she used? That gave me a little high.
Yeah.
Listen to no, but really,
it's real. It is real.
Move to America, Claudio. Move to America, Claudio.
I'm telling you, most women are emotional junkies. This is the like, it's not they look for the next dose when everything is quiet, when everything is peaceful. The boring part, I think women usually go to the next high that they can get in terms of emotions. So the bad boy is the guy that supplies that in doses. He gives him a fix, and next week give him again. So
all right.
It's,
so
it's biology.
That was my experience personally, like in the beginning, like growing up, like but I'm not like that anymore. But yeah, just say that was my experiences though. So
got you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Trudy, for sharing. Yeah. Yeah, let me ask you, Malia, like
she's an expert. Well, she can tell you.
Malia, so there what are certain traits in men that growing up that you would overlook the bad behavior because overlook it or their bad traits and behaviors because you just found that.
Yeah, say that shit. Say that
sexually
shit.
Attractive. The whole bag. To be honest.
I think I don't know. I think like before I met my husband, like I wouldn't settle for like no shit. Like if a dude treated me a certain type of way and I didn't like it, I'd be like, fuck you, I'm on to the next. That was my mentality. But and that was like my mentality for a really long time. But when I met my husband, there was just certain qualities that he had that outweighed like the bad. For instance, like I don't know, he had certain behaviors as far as like when he would lose his temper or something. That's something that we work on like in the beginning, because we of course, I think like every relationship in the beginning, that's when you really like start to know each other. But that's something that I overlooked because I knew that's something that he can work on, or that was a behavior that was learned from him growing up. But I think, I don't know, I don't know, I'm like, me personally, I'm a controller. So I like, if something bothers me, I can't let it go. I have to talk about it. I'm very vocal. And so with my husband, like he didn't like that at first. He had to learn how to like accept the fact, like, she's gonna bring up her like the issues that she has. So that's something that, you know, that's something that I don't know, I just can't overlook shit. If I see something I don't like it, I'm gonna say it. And that's something that my husband had to get used to, because he was used to being around women that were that shut their mouth, you know, that didn't say what was on their mind, that didn't speak up for themselves. And so that's something that he had to get used to. But as far as me, like, as far as me overlooking something, I overlook the fact that he was that he has a past. So my husband's he's an ex-felon, and so he was a bad boy, but he's changed for the most part. But you know, but one thing about him that I really love is that he understands like how his past you know, just shaped out his life now. And so he's like, I don't know, I'm just proud of him from where he was at, you know, back then before he met me to where he is now. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just like dating. I was just very like, I don't know. I was the one that was like, you know, it's my way or like, and so a lot of times it was, you know, I'm the aggressor. So if I didn't like something, it was gonna, you know, I just move on. So yeah.
When you found out your husband was a felon, did that make him more sexually attractive?
Kinda. Okay, so like, I don't know. I can never like be with a square. But I mean, let's be honest. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I guess you are attracted to that, like the thrill, I guess, of like, you know, being a rebel. Cause I'm a rebel myself. So if I don't know, I can never be with a square. Sorry, you guys. Just being honest, but you know, like I think what really attracted me to my husband was just the fact that like I know if we were ever in a situation, like he could protect me. Like I can't be with somebody who can't protect me, you know. I mean, I know I can protect myself, but like I want to know that my man can protect me if something went down. And so that's just my stance on it. And as far as like women being attracted or like wanting to stay in a toxic relationship, I believe that. I agree. I think a lot of women, they get a thrill from the drama, or like some women like the drama, you know, they like being, you know, just nagging and, you know, and sometimes it's like to make up, you know what I mean? I don't know. But that's just my point of view, or my opinion, how I see it.
All right, fellas, you heard it directly from the women. If you want to attract women, get our pay.
Did you ever heard this? There's no sex, then make up sex. That's there's for a reason. Somebody says that for a reason. And men don't say that. Women usually say that. No better sex than make up sex.
I'm about to pass it on to Savage, but I just want to say this real quick. I think Malia said something that was kind of profound to me. To understand the psychology of why women choose bad men is just, you know, you said that you want to feel protected. A lot of times when women see men who are toxic or narcissistic or bad boys, a lot of times they're portraying this behavior of like macho men of confidence, you know,
the like fake alpha.
The fake alpha. So a lot of times they conflate that with provide. He's a provider, protector, and you know that's just the natural nature of women.
I have to disagree. Sorry,
but they go with this men, but they find out that, you know, when you want to get a relationship with them, that there's more to the surface than what meets.
Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that? Don't you think they like the risk? Because I can say, oh, I was with him.
But real quick, I'll go with that with you, Claudio. But I know Savage raised his hand. I do.
Yeah, let him go.
Yeah, I'll go. Let Savage share his thoughts. Go ahead, Savage.
Just real quickly, I just wanted to add it on to what Malia said. Like earlier, I had mentioned that if you know how to play the game, you don't have to play the game if you know the rules. and nobody plays it better than women do, because the first and last time I got my heart broken was because somebody who knew how to play the fucking game better than I did. And that feeling absolutely fucking sucks. To me, that was a form of abuse, because I had to sit hand and foot waiting for this, waiting for her to hit me back, and she never did. So, I say that all in detail to this, yes, men and women equal, or I don't want to say equally get abused, but just the flip side of that, as much womanizing as I was doing, when it did come back full circle and hit me back in the ass, that shit absolutely fucking sucked. That's why I'm so mindful of the world that I'm putting my kids into, because people like that exist out there, because I was one of those fucking people. So, as much as we're talking about this in a real sense to it, why women are attracted to guys like this, or why men are attracted to women like that, it's really just being aware of your own value, right? That's ultimately what it should come down to. If you really value yourself and you know what your worth is, I think you'll keep yourself protected and saved for the one that you're looking for. And that's ultimately what, I believe we should just really be promoting, because nobody wants to be heartbroken. Nobody.
Yeah. So when you came back full circle, you just doubled down and went harder?
They retired. They retired him.
That's when he became Savage Island.
They made him retire.
He put the face paint on it.
He was a savage man, but now he's a savage island.
Like, fuck these bitches. Just joking, Toko.
I just want to add something to that Talanoa, in the sense that I think I agree with Claudio in the sense that if you give women at face value high enough value, in the sense that you prioritize your time more than anything, but you are voluntarily giving your time to them, if you don't give a shit that if they walk away, if they know that that your ambition to gain access to sex is not prioritized, then they value more. And it goes a bit deeper if you are in a sexual relationship with this person and you're very good at sex to some extent, it becomes even harder. And I'm surprised my wife hasn't outed me on this one.
She said that you know the game, Taniela.
But yeah, the majority of the red flags will be ignored if you do not prioritize your own need for sex. If you're willing to walk away from sex, I think majority of the women would prioritize your time, because now they know that they can't entice you, and you decide in a sense. And it's usually when men who are doing it to women who have been in bad relationships or quite new to the game in a sense. But if you know the movie of Don Juan de Marco, you would probably know my mindset around that sort of arena. And I'm actually quite surprised my wife stayed with me for 2 years. My missus stayed with me for the initial first 2 years, because I was yeah. It took me 2 years to be fully committed. So I played the game for so long that when I got drunk, even when I was with her, I naturally was a womanizer around females. And she would come and pick me up from the pubs or the bars, and she would see me talking to these women. And in my head, I didn't think much of it, but obviously not. Obviously, I was flirting. So those are the things, especially with the honesty stuff. If you come out this is for the men anyway. If you openly discuss your flaws right from the get-go when you're looking into dating, I think more women will respect you, and they're willing to look beyond some of the red flags that you have. Because that's like I said to you, well, that was when I asked my missus out, I said to her, I like you and I see us long term, but if you're willing to give me the chance, you'll have to essentially put up with me being a dickhead for the next year or so, while I try and reorientate myself to a committed relationship. And if that's worth to you in the long run, then let's go for it. But if it's not, walk away now. Let's not waste each other's time, in a sense.
All right, no worries. And Taniela, after this podcast, you can text me what you really said. Fuck it or leave it, bitch. It's a joke. It's a joke.
This is another thing that this is a little add-on. We swear, right? We normalize swearing at each other, especially when we're yelling at each other. We normalize it in the sense that if we get to a real argument, swearing doesn't become the thing that we concentrate on. It's not words. We concentrate on the actual problem. I call my wife a bitch, a cunt, whatever. She does the same to me. And the idea with that, and I know it's not normal for majority of people, but the idea is to take the importance out, take the meaningless importance that we put on words, especially when we're emotionally pushed to the boundaries. So when we do swear at each other, when we're arguing, we try and focus on the problem rather than, you called me a bitch, fuck you, you small dick cunt.
Hey, can I say something? Can I say something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
We had to stop that because we got too comfortable doing that, me and my wife. So now I just do it in Spanish, but now my kids are picking it up. I'll be over in the living room, pinche mierda, way, chingada, like puto. I just be saying all of it. And my kids are like, yeah, chingada. I'm like, whoa, what the? Yo, that was me.
Hey, they're trying to pick up game, Savage. They're trying to pick up game. All right, thanks. Hey, I'm gonna pass it on to Trudy because I know Trudy to answer the question and the same thing I asked Trudy and Malia. I know we talked about like that there are certain traits that you would overlook from men. You would compromise for.
Oh, thanks for getting back to me, you fucking cunt.
There was a British accent there. There was a British accent.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to ask the question again because I was just waiting to say that.
Fucking bitch. No. The question was, are there certain traits in men that you would overlook his bad traits and bad behaviors, or tolerate his bad behaviors because he has this certain trait? It makes him more attractive to you.
Well, Will, I'm still single, so what do you think? Some call it picky. I have to be careful. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I was just...
No, that's bullshit. Give us a fucking hypothetical. Fucking theory. Come on, the fuck is that?
Give me a hypothetical, and I will maybe give you an.
Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is with you right now. What the fuck about him do you put up with just to be with him?
What would I put up with?
Chris Brown is a better example. If Chris Brown, you met Chris Brown.
No. Jason Momoa is the best example. You stick with Jason Momoa. So So if you had, like I said, like I honestly believe, like, it goes both men and women, but we would, when we meet, I think Trudy said it best. We want what we can't have, right? And we have something we can't have, then we will, because we know we can't have it, or so we would tolerate certain things, certain behaviors, because we know that this is my one shot with this man, this is my one shot with this woman, because I don't deserve this type of, this is not the type of quality woman or man I would normally have. Be attracted to me, then you finally get that person, you want to keep them, and the women would tolerate or compromise their standards.
No one's gonna fucking believe me that I would turn down Jason Momoa because something was wrong with him. Like, I would smash Jason Momoa in a heartbeat. But if they compromised any moral or belief I had, especially if it came because I have a kid, I just wouldn't. I don't give a fuck who you are.
Take the kid out of the equation.
Take the kid. Just
single, ready to mingle.
If I'm still myself, yeah, I would have a hard time overlooking a lot of things that would compromise myself, because my parents had an amazing relationship until the day my dad died. I want that, and if it compromises that, what I'm looking for, what I want long term, then yeah, I'm gonna shoot it down. I'm not really willing, and I haven't, I've never really compromised myself or what I want. And it's not me being picky, because I just believe that there are certain people for certain people. And Jason Momoa is a beautiful man. and I would love to hit that back, front, up, down, sideways, again
Back,
and again.
out, on the back,
But-
out on the back.
But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. If we're being honest. And I know no one's gonna believe me.
Did
But
you
it's
never
okay.
break a rule for an alpha? Like, I don't have sex on the first date. And then the guy comes and they go, oh shit.
Well, who
Here
said
we
I
go
don't
again.
have sex on the first date? Hold up. I never said that. but
But those little rules. I only date you after 4 months, and then you are totally in love, and 1 month and you are already dating. Never happened to you?
I got married after knowing my husband for 3.5 weeks. So I'm not a good example of what you guys are
Move
asking.
to America, Claudio. This is God speaking to you, Claudio. Move to America, Claudio.
All right.
I mean, yeah,
No, it's all good. It's all good too. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, the reason why we're bringing this up is because I think it's important for women to understand, how they select men. So I want to pass it to you fellas. What do you guys like? Because I'm asking us the same question. Like, what do you think women? What are traits in men that, in your opinion, as men, that women would compromise their standards and their morals just to be with them? Because that's a real thing. Because obviously these women who get abused and be in violent relationships with these men, they're compromising their own standards and their own morals, because they're completely, because they're still they're in that abusive relationship. So by default, they're compromising their own worth and value to be with these guys. And for me, whenever I observe toxic men, most of them are good looking. Most of them are tall. Most of them have a persona. They got their shit together. And a lot of them, and I've never seen like a toxic guy that was just like a fat piece of shit. I've never seen it. I've never seen an abusive guy that was a fat piece of shit. I mean, I'm sure this guy exists, but the majority of those guys that I've seen that are toxic abusive, they're good looking guy. The guy that was in that video, Kina, I mean, he's a good looking kid. So a lot of times I would see it a lot of women. There are certain things in men that they overlook, and I think it's just something that needs to be said out loud for the younger women. So for the men on the panel, I want to ask you guys. I'll start with you, Taniela. Like, in your opinion, what do you think women would compromise? What types of men would they compromise, or traits in men they would compromise their own standard values to be with?
I think looks and status is a big thing. Majority of men with good looks, and pair that with status, recognizable status, especially within a large peer group. That's why social media is such a big success for good-looking young men. Women will compromise with that. I've seen it. I can't say that for myself. I look like shit, but I make up for it with bravado and other areas. But I think looks and status, that's the biggest thing. If you have good looks and you have some form of status and it's recognizable, majority of women would compromise, and even pair that with ambition. I think majority of the women that I come across and have seen in the past, if you're extremely ambitious and you embody that, and it's not just a fake, not a fake bravado that you put on yourself, that goes a long way.
Okay. All right. So status, looks,
big bonus ambition. If you're good in bed.
Yeah. And then and social media perpetuates that, and because they can post all of that on social media. Savage, what do you think, before I pass it on to Claudio? What do you think are traits and certain things that women tend to fall for when it comes to these men?
This is the hardest fucking question I've ever had to fucking contemplate being on your fucking podcast, bro.
Because you have to describe yourself.
Well, I can only speak from experience. But the only other woman that, like, besides my wife, there was only ever one woman who challenged me to actually try to be better than what I usually am, and that's because she saw potential in me. And as far as the traits go, I mean, fuck. her thing was like, she didn't want me to be perfect. She wanted to be able to see potential in me that she could help attribute to. So she wanted to be a part of my process and growing. And I was a fucking cougar, bro. She was about 8 years older than me. She had 2 kids. She came out of a relationship. So my mindset was still that the young-minded man trying to, perpetuate that I have everything, that I am the shit, where she could see right through my facade. So, I mean, if ultimately, if she can't see, or if I can't see myself growing with her or utilizing each other to be better, then I think I've already I've capped out. I mean, I've hit the ceiling, because a relationship shouldn't be based on where we're settled at now, or where we're complacent. Oh, this is good. We don't have to do better. We don't have to look any further. So I would say the trait that I would think of the most is like just really growth, man. If you can't see yourself growing with me, whether that be old or academically or whatever the fucking case might be, man, then this might only go as far as short term at best. I mean, I don't know. Why the fuck are you asking me this question, man? Fuck this shit.
That's a good one. I think potential is the big one. They see potential, eh?
I think it was hard because Savage was like, fuck, I have to talk about myself. All right, thank you, Savage. And last but not Claudio, what are your thoughts on why do these women like, why are they attracted to these men?
It's very easy. Like there's a saying, Portuguese to English. A woman's oath is written on water. So the rules that they make are written on water. They go away for a very fair reason. So as you know, women make rules for betas and break the rules for alphas. If the guy is pre-selected, like Taniela said, status, money, height. I saw a friend of mine, really attractive, like a 9 or a 10. It has hundreds of guys on their DMs every day say that she wouldn't pursue a man. And as soon as she saw the guy that she wanted and everybody wanted, she broke the rules and went with him and pursue him like I never saw men pursue a woman. So
because she's a dumbass.
No, but the thing, but the thing is, women usually are like this, and that's why I was talking about Chris Brown. You can have a radical feminist say, I hate men that beat up women. I hate domestic violence. And then Chris Brown get on the DMs and she starts to rationalize, Rihanna must did something. I know he didn't hit him. Just women are like that. Women really, really break the rules for the guy they want. So if the guy is pre-selected, and especially if he has another woman of the same caliber running around him, like the school athlete that is a dumbass, everybody knows that he's a womanizer, but if he has a lot of women around him, women will break the rules just to be with him.
Yeah,
so,
Claudio, it sounds like you already know the secret to women, though. Most of us are stupid.
No. It's not. You will never see hundreds of men on a concert screaming on a Beyonce concert. But those women that are normal women, if they have a chance to get Justin Bieber, Chris Brown, The Rock, they are going to break all the rules, I saw a woman that swear to me, I will never smoke in my life because I hate that. And then they get a guy that smokes. And then they start smoking. And you ask, why did you do that? And usually it's because of that. Women are very competitive in their own way. And they do what they need to do to get the guy that they want.
Biological. Women are very competitive.
Yeah.
Biological. And like Justin Bieber, never say never. That's what I.
But Chris Brown for me is the.
We found Toys type. No wonder why she said no to Jason Momoa.
Momoa, yeah. But Chris Brown for me is the. Chris Brown is the better example because 99% of women in this world, if Chris Brown is their type, even with the domestic violence and the rape charges and everything, they will break the rules to be with that guy because he's the man. So they're going to do it.
All right, no worries.
I just want to reiterate this to anyone who's watching and everyone on this panel. I will not. Not for Chris Brown, not for Momoa. Especially not for Chris Brown.
Who is the guy? What is the guy? What is the Cristiano Ronaldo?
Who?
Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber is the one?
No. Oh no, I'm totally I would break Bieber.
But you would try, you would like to try that.
He would never go back. He'd be like, I don't like white girls anymore.
He'll say never again.
He'll say never. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My dad just died, so I have like really inappropriate humor to deflect my emotions. So this panel is actually really what I needed. Thanks, guys.
I hope you get well soon.
Thanks.
Will, can I ask you a question before we go? I don't know if you have more questions. Just for the man on the panel.
For this, we gotta real quick because we gotta close it up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a question. That like something that really breaks my heart, because when I was in better shape, I was the good guy that had all the looks and the height and the money. So I managed well through women, but I was a good guy. I was the guy that gives you roses, that says good morning, good night, how are you, da, 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 da. And nothing breaks my heart more than like raising our children, our boys, to be good boys. Like you have to be a good man, you have to trust everybody, you have to work hard, da, 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 da. And when it comes to woman, when he gets like 12, 13 or 14, you have to take all the shit, all the good things that you put in his head, leave don't eat woman, don't treat him, and you have to treat him you have to say to him, remember everything I taught you that would work on your life for the last 14 years? With woman, forget about that. Because if you are going to be the good guy, your friends are going, the bad guys, the bad boys are going to overpower you, because they are not attracted to kindness, especially when they are young. So the question I was going to ask you, I know Taniela has kids, Savage, I think, I don't know if he has boys, but how are you going to maneuver that conversation when your kid is 14 and has a major heartbreak because you instilled in him having good morals, and those good morals made him being exploited by a normal girl of his age, like usually happens? How are you going to maneuver today?
Hey, for the fellas, just for the sake of time, can you just share your answer as your final thought, and then we'll just go around the panel. I'll start with you, Taniela. What's your just share your final thoughts and respond to Claudio, and then if you want people want to find you, they can find you. How can they find you? Right, Daniela.
And no difference. The morals are a core principle that he'll have to lean on later on in life. So to me, it's absolutely vital that he would have to go through that, so that he can gauge the world for how truly chaotic it is. And what I can provide as a father, even though that might hurt me, is to allow him to experience that and to take away from it and to guide that experience with him. I can't try and force him to see the world in a different way to avoid chaos and pain. I would rather him go through that experience and to determine it for himself, but also be a voice of guidance. Because that's, at the end of the day, he is his own. He is his own human being. The only thing that I can do is provide guidance, and to try and bring him back into some sort of moral grounding, rather than allowing him to fully lean into whatever it is that we usually go into, without the guidance of other men in our lives. I have that chance with him. I have the chance to say, hey, this is where it's going to take you. If you take that path, I'll be here, but you know, it'll waste more time. But hey, life's your oyster. So regardless of what your decision may be, I've really given you the best that I can. It's your turn to experience and to improve.
All right. Thank
It
you,
is
Taniela.
painful, but it's the best foundation for men to have is to go through pain, extreme pain. It's the best foundation for a man to build value.
You know, it's funny, Taniela. We with our daughters, we shelter them a lot. Be careful with the bad boy. Be careful with the guy. Don't trust him. Da-da-da. And with the man, if we were focused on the results, we'll say, yeah, be an asshole, but not the asshole that hits women, like the asshole that doesn't answer quick and da-da-da-da. And I think our kids are not going. The stage we are at 30 when we have kids or at 40, we forget about the results oriented.
Gotcha.
To our kids, man.
All right, Savage. What's your response to that question as your final thought, and how can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok primarily. But yeah, if my son asked me, then yeah, I would console him. We could talk about it, but I would rather him just go through it because worst I'm gonna do is just look. Daddy don't fucking know. I barely made it through. I'm gonna end up taking you to a strip club. You know what I'm saying? Your best bet, son. Your best bet is figuring it out yourself because the only advice I'm gonna give you is gonna put you in more of that pain. You know, I'm lucky enough that somebody was patient enough to be with me and understand me and help me grow. So, son, you have a better chance of surviving without daddy's advice because, you know, yeah, that's just it. Fuck this episode. God damn it, man.
No worries.
That's all we can do as fathers is try and be there, be present because we now know what our parents didn't know essentially. We're more verbal generation, so you have to provide support, but kick their ass when they're being too much of a pussy.
Got you. Ladies, I'll ask you guys final thoughts, and then how can people find you? I'll start with you, Trudy. Trudy, final thoughts on the first time being on this live podcast. What's your final thoughts on it, and then how can people find you if you want to be found?
All right. Yeah. So you can find me Instagram or Facebook. Trudy Tuitasi, pretty much my name. But yeah, man, this was an awesome Zoom tonight. So my final thoughts for Zoom tonight is basically if you are the abuser, like the domestic person or the victim, yeah, both got some problems that you need to work out and seek help. Literally, like, do not be afraid to reach out for help because you both need that support, definitely. And yeah.
All right.
That's pretty much my final thoughts. And God bless y'all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us tonight, Trudy. Malia, final thoughts, and how can people find you?
My final thought is, so I just want everyone to know there's nothing wrong with potential. So when me and my husband actually got together, a lot of people doubted us, doubted our relationship, and 6 years later, here we are striving. So fuck all of you guys that doubted us. And as far as I'm just kidding. Anyways, as far as the domestic violence, like Trudy said, seek help. If you are afraid to seek help within your own community, go outside of your community and get help. There's always, today we have so many resources to help us out. So please, reach out to any one of us or whatever you want to do. But I wish everybody well. And if you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at bossladybella. So I'll follow hiatus to all of you guys.
All right, thank you. And tonight we found out why she names herself Boss Lady D Baba. We found out why from her past.
She's on boss.
It's an oldie, man. It's an oldie, man.
And shout out to Jay from Jay with the super chat donation. Hey man, appreciate you for the support. Much love to you, man. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for supporting my channel, man. Jay, if you hear this, thank you. And last but not least, the one person specific on the woman that will not date Jason Momoa. Final thoughts. and how can people find you, Trudy?
Just to clarify, it's if he compromised what I wanted, I would not overlook. like traits that compromise what I want. But I will take him any day. But in very bad ways. So I'm sorry.
That was toxic.
He's gonna want my kind of toxic though. He's gonna want it. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. As far as domestic violence, and thank you. Women who are attracted to men who are violent in ways like this, I don't have much to say except you know what you want and you know what you can do, and complacency and excuses and money are not good excuses to stay. So I hope, like Trudy said, you seek help. And if you don't, sink or swim, honey. If you want to find me on Instagram and TikTok to either argue with me or talk shit about the shit I just said, feel free. TikTok, it's Antitui, ANTITUI, or King Tui on Instagram. And if you don't know how to spell King or Tui, don't find me.
Yeah, if you can't spell it, that's the least of your problems. Yep. All right. Anyways, for all you guys watching this right now, thank you so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe. And I know this was a very serious topic, sensitive topic, but we had to, have some fun and lighten it up a little bit for everybody out there. So
leave it to Polly to lighten up domestic. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Claudio. We're not always like this. We're serious sometimes.
Hey, hashtag this episode, Will, hashtag Tui and Jason 2022. Hashtag.
Hey, make that a hashtag right now.
I'm gonna clip that.
You spelled Bieber wrong, by the
way. The clip is woman doesn't want Jason Momoa.
Justin, yeah, don't forget to mention that I would ruin Bieber. Make the smiley face with the Thanks, guys.
Can I say just one thing before you go?
Go ahead, Claudio. Go ahead.
Tui, it seems like this is therapy for you. So Saturday, I think Will has a show again. So I know it's very difficult. So come here on Saturday to laugh with the guys. I know it helps a lot because I know it hurts. So come back again, okay?
Thanks. My dad's funeral is on Saturday. I literally just we had a family meeting just barely. So I was like, I can't deal with this shit. And then I was like, oh, the live. And I was like, yeah, this is gonna be therapy right now.
Company helps a lot.
No, it totally does. Outside of people crying.
Got you, Tui. Me, Taniela, and Will are gonna send you nudes of Jason Momoa.
I thought he was going to send these nudes.
All right, fellas. Right after this, we all send Jason Momoa nudes to Tui. All right. Tui, you have my number. I'm always here for you. Just call me anytime. And all right, ladies, thank you so much for being on this podcast. And all you guys are watching, thank you so much. Off out to you guys. Claudio, thank you so much. Always from Portugal, jumping on. But you guys have a blessed night. Okay. Tui, off out to. Love you.
Thank you. Love you guys.